Chapter 5785. Chapter 5785, Long Fei's face was difficult to calm down. Dai, what is your purpose for doing this? Also, we are already so familiar, so there is no need to do such a thing? Long Fei said. He is probing. He wasn't sure if the person in front of him was the sea. It can only be said that his methods are too mysterious. Even Long Fei can't see through them. No need to try. Go. This bead will guide you and do what you should do. As the man said, he handed the bead to Long Fei, and in an instant, his figure turned into a beam of light and disappeared. Come and go without a trace. Long Fei couldn't even capture the opponent's trajectory, and couldn't deduce where the opponent came from. Slight sigh. Immediately, Long Fei looked at the beads in his hand. Therein lies a complete, humane civilization. From Nuwa Fushi to the prehistoric era, it is a complete, humane path. Who are you? Long Fei said in a deep voice, looking at the direction where the figure of the sea disappeared and fell into silence. But at this moment, a red glow suddenly appeared in the bead. Long Fei flinched. Fear arose in his heart. Subconsciously, she shook off the beads in her hand. But it was still too late. The bead seemed to have a locking function, and that red glow directly cut through the void and poured into Long Fei's mind. In an instant, Long Fei froze in place, like a statue. After a while, Long Fei recovered, but his aura has changed drastically from before. The ferocity disappeared. There was even some confusion in his eyes. This is the ancient time? Well, it looks good. The world is so vast, and I can feel the extremely terrifying aura. Long Fei said to himself, looking at the world in front of him, with curiosity in his eyes. But for some reason, he always felt that the world in front of him was a little familiar. It seems that I have done something, but I can't remember anything. System, have I been here before? And I always feel like I've done something? Long Fei said softly, but suddenly, there was an illusion in his heart. System? Isn't the system gone? But immediately, he denied such absurd idea. Although the system is a dog, it is still loyal to itself. How could she abandon herself? Ding, please don't have any illusions, players. You have just arrived in the ancient times. And it is still in the early days of the ancient times. You see, the creatures between the heavens and the earth have just appeared. You said you have been here, and what have you done? Could it be that you think, could it be you who created the world? The system responded angrily. Long Fei was taken aback. Although it is uncomfortable, it must be admitted that the system is right. Shut up. What should I do now? Long Fei asked. Although the feeling in his heart still exists, he now knows that his most urgent task is to solve the system tasks. Of course the task is solved. Huh? What about the task? Where did my task go? The system said casually, but soon became a shock, because at this moment, the system discovered that its mission had disappeared. Don't make a fuss, you posted the mission, so it's possible that it disappeared inexplicably? Long Fei asked back. He didn't believe what the system said at this time, and felt that the system was playing tricks. No, is it really gone? Moreover, it is still in an uncontrollable state, that is to say, I can no longer issue missions. The system responded, but the voice was somewhat unnatural. It was as if he was also filled with shock at this moment. Long Fei fell silent. This is not right. This is definitely not a coincidence. But thinking of this thought made Long Fei extremely afraid. He is now the only state, and there are only a handful of people who can reach this state in the world. But if this is the case, someone can change his memory without anyone noticing, or even erase some of the system's memory, which is terrifying. System, do you think we have encountered something unbelievable? Long Fei asked in a low voice. His heart is heavy. I don't know, but the system has detected an abnormality in your body, which seems to contain a terrifying power. At this time, the system said. Long Fei was startled and even more surprised. He himself didn't feel anything, but at this moment he was prompted by the system to check himself quickly. However, no abnormalities were found. His brow furrowed. He didn't doubt the system's words, but at this time the system could sense it, but he didn't find anything which proved the horror of that power. But one thing is for sure. If both the system and myself find something is wrong, then there must be an unknown force that has appeared. If you say that, something weird must have happened. Long Fei became more and more sure. I don't know. The system can't perceive any trace of anyone's existence. But it's strange. I seem to remember that I abandoned you, but now you are here again. The system murmured to itself. But these words made Long Fei's scalp tingle instantly. He didn't say, but the absurd feeling he had at the beginning reappeared. Lessons learned. This coincidence made Long Fei instantly certain that something unspeakable must have happened between the system and himself before, but it was unknown what it was. But the inexplicable sense of fear in my heart is getting stronger and stronger, and it is extremely terrifying to be able to do it quietly. Is it the sea? There is an inexplicable guess in his mind. Among the people he knows, the only person who can do this is probably the sea. Of course, there may be another possibility. That is, there is a person in this world who is not inferior to the sea. Just like when he never entered the place of origin, the sea was extremely afraid of the place of origin. No matter what kind of existence it is, I can't underestimate it. It seems I must hurry up. Long Fei thought in his heart. As for the remaining power in the body, he couldn't figure out, and he didn't want to waste time on it. Since the person who took the shot can do this step without making a sound, it proves that it is definitely not something that he can lift at this stage. WAP. K with Macron USH 5. That since it can't be lifted, it doesn't matter to waste time on it. It's just mediocrity. System, there are no missions now, so how do we count this mission? How do we count rewards and punishments? Long Fei asked. If the mission disappears, that naturally means that the rewards and punishments will disappear. Therefore, you must consider whether you want to continue the task now. Ding, the missions are gone, so are the rewards and punishments. Moreover, the system has detected traces of an inexplicable force intruding, so it needs to block itself and clean it up. The system responded. WL Faro. XWU. Now it can be seen that the system is also extremely attentive at this time. But it's normal, as far as the system is concerned. Even Long Fei can't interfere with his power, but now there's an unfamiliar force that has changed the system, which makes the system extremely cautious. www. Kaho 5. Net Long Fei nodded. It's very systematic. Although the system is a bit stupid, it is still very serious when it should be serious. After endless coma, sure you suddenly got up from the bed. If you want to watch the latest chapter content, please download the Star Reading app, the latest chapter content without ads. The website has not updated the latest chapter content, and the Star Reading novel app has updated the latest chapter content. He took a big gulp of fresh air, his chest trembling. Confused, puzzled, all kinds of emotions came to my mind. Where is this? Afterwards, Shiryu subconsciously observed his surroundings, and then became even more at a loss. A single dormitory? Even if he was successfully rescued, he should be in the ward now. In my own body, how could there be no injuries at all? With doubts, Shiryu quickly swept his gaze across the room and finally settled on a mirror by the bedside. The mirror reflected his current appearance. He was about 17 or 18 years old, and he was very handsome. But the problem is it's not him. Download the Star Reading app and read the latest chapter content without ads for free. My previous self was a handsome young man in his 20s who had been working for a while. But now, no matter how you look at it, this appearance is only the age of a high school student. This change left Shiryu in a daze for a long time. Don't tell him that the operation was a success. The body and appearance have changed. This is not a question of whether to have surgery or not, but of fairy art. He turned into a completely different person. Could it be that he crossed over by himself? In addition to the mirror on the bedside, which was obviously placed in a bad feng shui position, Shiryu also found 3 books beside it. Shiryu picked it up and took a look. The title instantly silenced him. Necessary Beast Breeding Handbook for Novice Breeders. Postpartum Care of Pet Animals. Guidelines for Evaluation of Alien Beast Ear Girls. Shiryu. The titles of the first 2 books are quite normal. What's the matter with you in the last one? Cough. Shiryu's eyes were serious, and he stretched out his hand, but soon his arms stiffened. Just when he was about to open the 3rd book to see what it was, His brain suddenly felt a stabbing pain, and a large amount of memories flooded him like a flood. Icefield City. Pet breeding base. Trainee pet keeper. The website will be closed soon. Download the Star Reading app to provide you with the most powerful upgrade system, Beastmaster. Chapter 5786. Chapter 5786. Then what should I do next? How can I go back? Long Fei asked. After calming down, Long Fei changed the topic to the main topic. Since the mission disappeared, Long Fei would not be too entangled, but have to go back. That era is the home game, and this is just an episode. Ding! This needs to be found by players themselves. Friendly reminder. Although the mission has been cancelled, Nuwa's consumption actually exists in that time and space. That is to say, players can only exist in this time and space for a maximum of 10 days. No, I feel it seems that there was an accident, and the player had better go back within 3 days, otherwise Nuwa might have an accident, the system said. In an instant, Long Fei's face darkened. The system's words remind him. He feels very model-like. It was clear that this was the first time he came here, but he always felt that he had done something here before. It was precisely because of this that the words of the system at this time made Long Fei tremble. Cap A with acute Delta 5. Net must speed up. And when the system said the time of 3 days, Long Fei also didn't have any grievances. He even felt that the time said by the system at this time was a bit reserved, and he wanted to be faster. Nuwa is now his own woman. He will never take any risks. At this moment, a bead suddenly flashed a light of humanity. This brilliance is the power of human civilization shining, and there is a fearless belief in it. W. Alfaro. Xwu. Net, just like the human race, cultivated the world and the historical existence. It lasts for a long time and is unyielding. However, Long Fei's expression changed. This breath is clearly already a complete humane civilization. Long Fei was dumbfounded. System, what's going on here? Didn't I bring a broken bead? Why does it already contain humane civilization? Long Fei asked back. Ding. The system dings, but there is no response. Dumbfounded. Even the system didn't have any explanation at this time. What happened in front of him was beyond the outline, and it couldn't be explained by the power he now possesses. But before Long Fei could think more, the bead hovered and hovered in front of Long Fei. The brilliance shone so brightly that Long Fei didn't even want to look directly at it. It's not that Long Fei's strength is not enough. Rather, this power is human civilization, and as a human race, Long Fei has a natural awe for this power. It doesn't matter how strong he is now. No matter how strong he is, he will not despise the human race. Stretching out his hand slowly, the bead fell into his hand smoothly, as if it had a spirituality at this moment. The moment he got it, Long Fei was excited. It seems that at this moment, he has mastered the future of the human race. For a moment, Long Fei had an impulse in his heart, that is, to destroy the apocalypse tribulation no matter what price he paid. System, can you deduce from the change of this bead who has tampered with it? Long Fei asked. Feeling the power of civilization contained in the beads, he was even more astonished beyond measure. He asked himself that he could never do it. Even if the task is still there, if he is asked to deduce human civilization within a few days, or even hide it in a bead, he will definitely not be able to do it. This requires extremely terrifying strength to support. Many times, it is easier to destroy than to create. But the power that Long Fei is good at is more destruction. As for creation and deduction, he has never been contaminated with this kind of power. So, to a certain extent, the person behind the shot was also helping him. Ding, I can't perceive it, and there is no trace to be found at all. And I advise players not to waste time on this kind of thing. The other party can hide it from you and me, and do so many things in silence. It proves that the other party must have controlled an indescribable and illogical force, said the system. Long Fei pouted. I'm very upset. He thought that his current cultivation base had reached the only level. Even if someone was stronger than him, he would definitely not feel powerless like before. But now a slap in the face. Even the trace of the other party could not be found. Damn it, when I upset the prehistoric world and push a calamity to the extreme, when I get the power in it, my cultivation level goes a step further and even reaches the legendary one, and only I want to see in the end who is still controlling my fate. Long Fei said secretly in his heart. After finishing speaking, Long Fei grasped the pearl of humanity in his hand. In the next moment, he soared into the sky and soared above the 9 heavens. Then, countless creatures and hidden existences in the world fell under his gaze. Heavenly Tao, Hong Jun has not yet attained the Tao. Hollow willows haven't become ancestors yet. The gods and demons are still there, huh? The Nether Blood Sea has already appeared at this time. It's really weird. Scenes of pictures appeared in Long Fei's eyes. On the one hand, he felt curious, but on the other hand, he felt extremely familiar, and even a lot of power gave him a feeling as if it had been stripped from his body. This feeling is very mysterious and indescribable, but he still had no impulse. He knows that in this world, he can't change anything. After all, this is at the other end of time and space. A little change here might affect the progress of this piece of world. So even though Long Fei had Ji Dong in his heart and wanted to see these creatures, he finally endured it. Gradually, he withdrew his gaze and looked at the world and the surrounding fields. He wants to find Huiyun Cave. It's not an era. Many existences between heaven and earth are different from the prehistoric era. So, where is the Huiyun Cave? Long Fei pondered. Even if there is no task, I still have to go out at this step so that I can find the way back and knew what can be safe and sound. But the world is vast, and he used his strength to traverse the world, looking for it again and again, but he still couldn't find any clues. The next moment, his figure fell from a void, took out the human bead, and stared at it. But apart from being able to see the mileage of the human race contained in it, I can't see anything else, and there is no guidance at all. Where exactly? Long Fei frowned. Suddenly, his eyes moved. No, I seem to have fallen into a misunderstanding. There is no Huiyun Cave in this world. In other words, if I create a place and name it Huiyun Cave, then it will be Huiyun Cave. With a change of thinking, Long Fei's eyes suddenly brightened. His previous thinking was to be bound by himself, to draw the ground as a prison, and he must find Huiyun Cave if he had preconceived ideas. But how to find something that does not exist in this world? Now, with just one thought, Long Fei has his own decision in his heart. With a movement of his hand, he turned his eyes and looked at nothingness. The next moment, a little blood appeared in his hand. This blood essence pierced the void, rendering a cloud of blood. The blood-colored cloud was like fire, burning in the sky. Drop! Long Fei gave a loud shout. Boom! The blood cloud fell from the sky, and the place where it fell directly stirred up thousands of feet of dust and smoke. When the dust and smoke dissipated, a mountain range suddenly appeared in front of my eyes. Long Fei's eyes lit up. This is the mountain range where Huiyun Cave is located. So, that's how Huiyun Cave came out. Long Fei felt secretly refreshed. After endless coma, sure you suddenly got up from the bed. If you want to watch the latest chapter content, please download the Star Reading app, the latest chapter content without ads. The website has not updated the latest chapter content, and the Star Reading novel app has updated the latest chapter content. He took a big gulp of fresh air, his chest trembling. Confused, puzzled, all kinds of emotions came to my mind. Where is this? Afterwards, sure you subconsciously observed his surroundings, and then became even more at a loss. A single dormitory? Even if he was successfully rescued, he should be in the ward now. And my own body? How could there be no injuries at all? With doubts, sure you quickly swept his gaze across the room and finally settled on a mirror by the bedside. The mirror reflected his current appearance. He was about 17 or 18 years old, and he was very handsome. But the problem is, it's not him. Download the Star Reading app and read the latest chapter content without ads for free. My previous self was a handsome young man in his 20s who had been working for a while. But now, no matter how you look at it, this appearance is only the age of a high school student. This change left Shiryu in a daze for a long time. Don't tell him that the operation was a success. The body and appearance have changed. This is not a question of whether to have surgery or not, but of fairy art. He turned into a completely different person. Could it be that he crossed over by himself? In addition to the mirror on the bedside, which was obviously placed in a bad feng shui position, sure you also found 3 books beside it. Sure you picked it up and took a look? The title instantly silenced him. Necessary Beast Breeding Handbook for Novice Breeders. Postpartum Care of Pet Animals. Guidelines for Evaluation of Alien Beast Ear Girl. Sure you. The titles of the first 2 books are quite normal. What's the matter with you in the last one? Cough. Sure Yu's eyes were serious, and he stretched out his hand, but soon his arms stiffened. Just when he was about to open the 3rd book to see what it was, his brain suddenly felt a stabbing pain, and a large amount of memories flooded him like a flood. Icefield City. Pet Breeding Base. Trainee Pet Keeper. The website will be closed soon. Download the Star Reading app to provide you with the most powerful upgrade system, Beastmaster. Chapter 5787. Chapter 5787. The mountains are poor and the rivers are back. I thought it would take a lot of time to find it, but I didn't expect it to be so simple. With a thought, Long Fei strolled into it. According to the location in memory, he directly punched out a cave and then walked in slowly. But just as Long Fei was carrying out his actions step by step, he didn't know that at this moment, 2 figures were overlooking everything in front of him outside the world. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I thought everything would change when I travel back, but I didn't expect that it was doomed in the torrent of history. A voice appeared. If Long Fei was here, he would be shocked. Because this figure is exactly Long Batian. Do you know why I didn't stop you before? I'm used to this kind of thing. Even for the first time, I did it myself, but it still hasn't changed. Another voice appeared, and this voice was the sea. You can't even stop your attack? Can't you kill Long Fei? Long Batian looked at the sea with shock in his eyes. The power of the sea to bring him back from his disorientation was a miracle. Even the only environment has to look up. It was precisely because of this that he was even more shocked at this time. So strong that he couldn't even stop Long Fei. He won't die unless he wants to. Dahai said calmly. So hanging? What is his origin? Long Batian was shocked. The words of the sea are tantamount to a depth bomb. You can't say it. At least it's useless to tell you now. You'd better go through the reincarnation obediently. I'm so annoying. You have to go to the place of origin to face that terrifying existence. Dahai said, without waiting for Long Batian to react. Come here, grab Long Batian, and disappear into the world. But at this time, Long Fei naturally didn't know that the sea was outside the sky at this time. He blasted out of the Huiyun cave with one punch and walked all the way to the depths. Along the way, he was imagining the competition in the prehistoric world. He didn't even care about it himself. What he said to himself was the same as some of the scenes he and Yuhua awakened when they entered the Huiyun cave to meet the 3 emperors. At this moment, he was already at the end of Huiyun cave. Let's just put it here. I don't know what kind of opportunity it contains. I hope that I can get incredible power to ensure that I am invincible in the 3-way competition in my prehistoric world. Long Fei no longer thought about it, and put to this bead is placed here www. Until novel. Come, lies for the rest. He won't do any more. There was already a concept in his mind that nothing would change. In other words, this bead containing humane civilization can only be opened in the hands of Fushi and Yuhua. Although they haven't appeared yet, there will be no mistakes in this period of historical process, which is bound to happen. So Long Fei wouldn't be worried that someone would enter the Huiyun cave. Of course, Long Fei was able to have this confidence because his own blood essence was fused into the Huiyun cave when it was created. His current strength has been so strong that it can be called terrifying. One's own blood essence is enough to shield the ghosts and monsters under the only one. I have to add another setting, otherwise it will be troublesome when even Fushi and Yuhua can't come in. Thinking in his heart, Long Fei's figure walked out of Huiyun cave. He can follow his heart. A will of one's own will descend. Directly cover this Huiyun cave. And his own will is also very simple. That is to shield the evil spirits of the heavens. This was the ancient times when countless creatures were powerful and ferocious. What he had to do was to shield these beings from Huyun Cave. The only ones allowed are those who are in awe of living beings. And in this era, it is even advancing down an era. The only ones who meet this condition are Fushi and Yuhua. After doing all this, Long Fei's mind also settled down. At least, there will be no mistakes in time. In other words, Yuhua's comfort can be guaranteed for the time being. The next thing is to find a way back. Long Fei thought and started to walk forward. Within a few steps, his figure appeared directly outside the sky. He has no interest in this world. This feeling emanates from his heart, as if he already knows this world well, and he doesn't want to take another look. But the moment his figure appeared in this prehistoric world, he frowned. His eyes suddenly became serious. Here doesn't seem to be the place of origin. This is not the place of origin, and it's completely different from the breath I felt when I entered the place of origin. Long Fei was shocked. Incredible. As far as he could see, there was a barren galaxy. Countless stars are still decaying and dying, and the direction in which they fell was the world beyond the prehistoric. Boom! Suddenly, under the impact of the scene in front of him, a cognition suddenly appeared in Long Fei's mind. The prehistoric world is the place where stars fall. System, come out. Long Fei directly contacted the system. In this case, only the system can give him an explanation. Although his mission is gone, but he naturally remembered what was said in the previous mission. Yurong and Tushan Xiaoya were in the place where the stars fell. www.kaho5. Net, doesn't this mean that these two people are in the prehistoric world? Thinking of this thought, Long Fei could no longer suppress his heart. Even at this moment, he couldn't wait to leave this world and return to the prehistoric world. If the prehistoric world is really the place where the stars fall, then it will be regarded as repeating the world, and I will definitely find you. Long Fei's eyes were as cold as iron. That was his woman, and he must rescue it. Even if there is no system task, no force can stop it. It's just that the system seems to have really entered the repair state at this moment, and there is no response. But this discovery also made Long Fei unable to calm down. In the next moment, he looked into the distance. If this is not the place of eternity, then there must be mysteries that I don't know about, such as the origin of the place of origin, and even the power of the stars in this galaxy. Long Fei thought. The system didn't respond, but he still wanted to confirm his guess. Immediately after that, his figure flashed, and he walked towards the depths of nothingness. But at this moment, a force suddenly spread out. Immediately afterwards, he saw a bright light flickering out of nothingness. The body of the light is like a huge palm, palms facing up, like 5 fingers spread out. And above those 5 fingers, countless stars twinkled out. Immediately afterwards, a familiar breath rushed over. And this breath belongs to the place of origin. In other words, at this moment, the land of origin appeared. It's like something out of nothing. It's this giant palm that created the place of origin. Long Fei frowned, puzzled in his heart. He had a strong desire to explore that place. It seems that somewhere in the dark, there's a force that wants to attract myself to explore. After endless coma, sure, you suddenly got up from the bed. If you want to watch the latest chapter content, please download the Star Reading app, the latest chapter content without ads. The website has not updated the latest chapter content, and the Star Reading novel app has updated the latest chapter content. He took a big gulp of fresh air, his chest trembling. Confused, puzzled, all kinds of emotions came in my mind. Where's this? Afterwards, Shiryu subconsciously observed his surroundings and then became even more at a loss. A single dormitory? Even if he was successfully rescued, he should be in the war now. In my own body, how could there be no injuries at all? With doubts, Shiryu quickly swept his gaze across the room and finally settled on a mirror by the bedside. The mirror reflected his current appearance. He was about 17 or 18 years old, and he was very handsome. But the problem is it's not him. Download the Star Reading app and read the latest chapter content without ads for free. My previous self was a handsome young man in his 20s who had been working for a while. But now, no matter how you look at it, This appearance is only the age of a high school student. This change left Shiryu in a daze for a long time. Don't tell him that the operation was a success. The body and appearance have changed. This is not a question of whether to have surgery or not, but a fairy art. He turned into a completely different person. Could it be that he crossed over by himself? In addition to the mirror on the bedside, which was obviously placed in a bad feng shui position, Shiryu also found 3 books beside it. Shiryu picked it up and took a look. The title instantly silenced him. Necessary Beast Breeding Handbook for Novice Breeders. Postpartum Care of Pet Animals. Guidelines for Evaluation of Alien Beast Ear Girls. Shiryu. The titles of the first 2 books are quite normal. What's the matter with you in the last one? Cough. Shiryu's eyes were serious, and he stretched out his hand, but soon his arm stiffened. Just when he was about to open the 3rd book to see what it was, his brain suddenly felt a stabbing pain, and a large amount of memories flooded him like a flood. Icefield City. Pet Breeding Base. Trainee Pet Keeper. The website will be closed soon. Download the Star Reading app to provide you with the most powerful upgrade system, Beastmaster. Chapter 5788. Chapter 5788. Intuition told Long Fei that countless mysteries were held in this palm. It seems that as long as you figure out the secret of this palm, you can unravel the apocalypse. It must be like this. After reaching the unique realm, many decisions and thoughts will not be lost for nothing. Since I have this kind of guess at this moment, it must be related. A thought flashed, and Long Fei's figure exploded instantly, crossing nothingness, heading towards the place where the light appeared. But the moment his figure stood up, a force suddenly came from under his feet. That force is irresistible, as if pulled by the other side of time and space. Grass. Long Fei cursed loudly, secretly thinking that this power is not the right time. If it wasn't for the fear that if he forcibly cut off the contact, he might not be able to leave this era, which would cause even greater changes. But Long Fei really wanted to be desperate. But at this moment, he had no choice but to give up. There are too many entanglements on the other side of time and space, and he can't take risks. Thinking of this, Long Fei gave up resisting. In the next moment, a beam of light directly enveloped him, engulfing him. On the other side, the prehistoric world, inside Huiyun Cave. The 3 emperors look pale. It has even been said that it is infinitely close to a feeling of exhaustion. As for Nvois, her soul is on the verge of collapse. The atmosphere in the arena was extremely tense. Did he fail? Fushi looked helpless. Today is the 10th day. Their strength has been exhausted to the extreme. Especially Nua, who has reached the verge of death. A quarter of an hour at most. If Long Fei doesn't come back, Nua and they will die here. But they don't want to give up. Once they give up, it means that the human race has no hope. It means that what happened in the past will no longer exist. The past does not exist, so where does the present come from? I can't bear it anymore. Although I don't know what happened, but since the other party has not come back until now, it proves that there is an irresistible factor. Perhaps what he endured is more difficult than ours. Shen Nonghuang said, Long Fei is very strong, so strong that they need to look up to him. But they don't know what kind of existence it was in the ancient times. Moreover, what Long Fei wanted to do was not something that anyone with strong strength could do. To create a civilization and hide in Sumeru, this method is miraculous, and it is not something ordinary people can do. Do your best and obey the destiny. If our human race is doomed to be burned in this life and go through the flames of war, then there will be another battle of the ancients. My human race will never die, and the fire will never go out. As long as one person exists, there is hope after all. Xinyuan Huang said, he is different from the 2. He unified the human race by war. He never believed that the inheritance of the human race that stood between the flames of war would be easily destroyed. Emperor Shenong and Emperor Fushi did not speak. When it comes to the human race, the feelings between the 3 of them are the same. Otherwise, they would not trust Long Fei either. But now, it is still helpless after all. But they have no resentment in their hearts, and there is no turning back from the decision on this road. That's it. We are doing our best now. Fushi's eyes darkened, has been unable to support. He glanced at Nuwa in the distance. He smiled miserably. At this time, Nuwa's soul is already dissipating. She used her soul to open this space-time channel, and now that the soul of life dissipated, it meant that the channel of time and space was about to be closed. Once it was closed, it proved that Long Fei could not come back. Emperor Shenong and Xianyuan also sighed in their eyes. For them, death is not afraid. It is even a kind of relief. They have been bound for endless years in this Huiyun cave, and they have long been able to face death. The only regret is that this time it still failed after all. Poor Nuwa. She will also be scattered. The eyes of the three dimmed, and the fire of life and soul on Nuwa's body also began to extinguish. Desperation enveloped Huiyun Cave. But at this moment, a ray of light suddenly flashed, breaking through the passage of time and space. And as the light fell, the space-time channel completely collapsed. Bastard, don't come sooner or later. Why come at this time? Long Fei cursed. Intuition told him that the giant palm that appeared in the depths must involve a big secret. It's a pity that the success fell short. If it wasn't for the traction of a space-time channel, I would definitely go to see what happened. There must be some irresistible force pulling me back. It seems that I don't want me to see the mystery. However, did you stop it? I must find that palm. Long Fei thought to himself, but soon he suppressed all kinds of thoughts. No solution anymore. Now that you've come back here, it's useless to think about it. Master, you are back. At this time, a figure appeared. All three of Fushi's eyes were shining. The look of despair has also disappeared, leaving only surprise. In the nick of time, if Long Fei was one step slower, maybe they would really lose their souls. Long Fei said lightly, and then looked at Nuwa. Although the three of them were in a depressed state at this time, there was no life-or-death crisis. On the contrary, it was Nuwa, whose soul of life was already illusory and on the verge of collapse. In this case, he naturally wants to focus on Nuwa. With a thought, a majestic force erupted in the Huiyun cave, enveloped in a mysterious aura, and fell directly on Nuwa's soul. The next moment, Nuwa's life soul exuded divine brilliance, shining brilliantly in the Huiyun cave, and her soul began to recover, perfect in the blink of an eye. But a strange scene happened. That is, Nuwa showed no sign of waking up. Even though her spirit has recovered at this time, she still closes her eyes tightly. What's going on? Long Fei frowned slightly. It doesn't feel right. He has absolute confidence in his own strength. The power to restore Nuwa's soul, just now, was pulled from his own soul. It is self-evident how powerful his unique soul is. If you really want to compare, it is above the way of heaven. But at this time, under this kind of power, Nuwa didn't react at all and repeatedly fell into an unknown cage. Long Fei's face also changed. My lord, it should be due to the way of heaven. At this time, Fushi said. Long Fei turned his head with a little shock on his face. That's right, Nuwa is a sage of heaven. Although she had unparalleled merits and virtues when she became a saint, she was still subject to the supervision of heaven. She was able to open the space-time channel before, probably because she used the power in it. That is to say, although her soul has been restored, the most critical link is missing. Fushi said, he is the one who knows Nuwa best. Long Fei nodded. So that's the case, that's easy to say. I will untie the shackles between her and Tiandao. Long Fei said calmly. Now that he knew the crux of the problem, Long Fei would not turn a blind eye to it. As for the way of heaven, he didn't care about it at all. Moreover, if he returns now, the calamity between heaven and earth should be pushed forward a step further. Although Tiandao is irrelevant, it has been reduced to accompaniment during this calamity. But after all, this calamity happened in this world, and Tiandao itself will definitely understand it. Omega Mega W. Net and Shu. Zai with grave after coming for so long. Long Fei also wanted to see what kind of existence the Tao of heaven is in this world. After endless coma, sure you suddenly got up from the bed. If you want to watch the latest chapter content, please download the Star Reading app, the latest chapter content without ads. The website has not updated the latest chapter content, and the Star Reading Novel app has updated the latest chapter content. He took a big gulp of fresh air, his chest trembling. Confused, puzzled, all kinds of emotions came to my mind. Where's this? Afterwards, Shiryu subconsciously observed his surroundings, and then became even more at a loss. A single dormitory? Even if he was successfully rescued, he should be in the ward now. In my own body, how could there be no injuries at all? With doubts, Shiryu quickly swept his gaze across the room and finally settled on a mirror by the bedside. The mirror reflected his current appearance. He was about 17 or 18 years old, and he was very handsome. But the problem is, it's not him. Download the Star Reading app and read the latest chapter content without ads for free. My previous self was a handsome young man in his 20s who had been working for a while. But now, no matter how you look at it, this appearance is only the age of a high school student. This change left Shiryu in a daze for a long time. Don't tell him that the operation was a success. The body and appearance have changed. This is not a question of whether to have surgery or not, but a fairy art. He turned into a completely different person. Could it be that he crossed over by himself? In addition to the mirror on the bedside, which was obviously placed in a bad feng shui position, Shiryu also found 3 books beside it. Shiryu picked it up and took a look. The title instantly silenced him. Necessary Beast Breeding Handbook for Novice Breeders. Postpartum Care of Pet Animals. Guidelines for Evaluation of Alien Beast Ear Girls. Shiryu. The titles of the first 2 books are quite normal. What's the matter with you in the last one? Cough. Shiryu's eyes were serious, and he stretched out his hand, but soon his arm stiffened. Just when he was about to open the 3rd book to see what it was, his brain suddenly felt a stabbing pain, and a large amount of memories flooded him like a flood. Icefield City. Pet Breeding Base. Trainee Pet Keeper. The website will be closed soon. Download the Star Reading app to provide you with the most powerful upgrade system, Beastmaster. Chapter 5789. Chapter 5789. The Prehistoric World. Above Nothingness, Zhixiao Palace. In Zhixiao Palace, Hongjun stared at the front with pensive eyes. At this moment, he was restless. He has never felt that he is dignified, and he will fall into such a passivity one day. Especially just a moment ago, he could sense the changes about Niwa in the Tao of Heaven. This also proves that that person is back. He is back. In other words, these people have failed. What that person said is really good, and nothing will change. Kenshu. Zai with grave. Also, it seems that with his return, some memories appear to my mind. Hongjun's expression was extremely serious. It is even said that it is with fear. It seems that nothing has really changed, and everything that happened was preordained, including that they traveled through time and space to go back to the past and want to snipe Long Fei. It was already predestined from the very beginning. Hongjun had mixed feelings in his heart. Just a moment ago, the heavenly path trembled, as if some kind of early warning had occurred. Then he felt that the soul of one of the 6 heavenly saints was constantly trembling. Afterwards, many memories appeared in his mind. If this hadn't happened to him, he wouldn't have known that he had seen such a scene in the depths of his memory. That's right, what he saw was the scene of Long Fei devouring madly in the chaos, and then beheading Long Batian and others. WWW. Until novel. Calm, it's just that this memory seemed to appear in his mind out of thin air, which made him extremely astonished. It's too terrifying. The existence of the heavenly Tao realm is like a chicken and a dog in front of him. He can be killed with a single sword. He was terrified. Even though this memory had been cut off for eternity, it still made him terrified at this moment. Even if he is Tian Dao, he can't take it lightly at this time. That is the real power of destruction, which can kill him. But it's that person who is really scary. Hongjun sighed, and the figure of Dahai once again appeared in his mind. Although in the era when the chaos first opened, the sea was isolated from its own breath. But he is clear. The sea also went to that era. That's why the 2 figures overlapped in his eyes. Thinking of this, he felt powerless in his heart. My own way of heaven is coming to an end. This is Zhixiao Palace? But that's all. At this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in his ears. Moreover, the voice was so ethereal that he didn't notice it at all. As for Hong Jun, the moment he heard the voice, he suddenly raised his head and looked towards the sky. He was too familiar with this voice, and the scene that was staged in his memory before resurfaced before his eyes. This is the killing god. In an instant, his spirit tensed up, his nerves tensed up, a chill rose from the bottom of his heart, and he felt the crisis surrounding him. After all, this is a master who kills without blinking an eye. In his eyes, the realm of heaven is like grass and trees, which can be destroyed with a single sword. While thinking about it, Long Fei's figure had already appeared in front of him. Poor Dao Hong Jun, I have met your excellency. Hong Jun took the initiative to get up, not daring to put on a posture. No, in front of Long Fei, he has no posture to speak of. Long Fei was stunned for a moment. Looking at Hong Jun in such a posture, his eyes also had an unbelievable expression. This time I can't fix it for him. Originally, he wanted to let Hong Jun free Nuwa's soul from the heaven with an absolutely high-handed posture. Just do it if you don't accept it. But I didn't expect Hong Jun to play such a game for him when he came up, which made him collapse in an instant with the words he had prepared in advance. Are you sure you're Hong Jun? Long Fei asked back, with doubts in his eyes. It's illogical. Is a heavenly Tao so cowardly? The poor way is Hong Jun. Your Excellency's intention to come has something to do with Nuwa, right? Hong Jun asked. Long Fei nodded. The purpose of my coming will be discussed later. Can you tell me about you first? Are you sure you are Tian Dao? Is it Tian Dao, Hong Jun? Hong Jun. Hearing Long Fei's words, the fear in Hong Jun's heart exploded even more. So ruthless, this person's mind has long been like a sword. He must be trying to arouse my dissatisfaction by saying this at this time. Once I showed any dissatisfaction, he took the opportunity to attack. Hong Jun slowly raised his head, looking at Long Fei from the corner of his eye. At this moment, he saw Long Fei's extremely complicated eyes. It was as if a certain plan had failed. Sure enough, that's what he thinks. But it's a pity, as the Tao of Heaven, I must be able to bend and stretch, and I must not give him a chance to get mad. Hong Jun thought in his heart. At this moment, he was extremely determined. That is the meaning of absolutely not disobeying Long Fei. No matter what he wants, he cannot raise objections. Otherwise, the result waiting for him will be extremely miserable. Thinking of this, he said, Don't worry, Your Excellency. I am indeed Hong Jun, the heavenly Tao of this world. By the way, Your Excellency is a guest, and I will summon the heavenly Tao saint to clean up the dust for you. Hong Jun said, pointing in the sky. A red glow split open the sky and the earth in an instant. Long Fei. System, is this a fake? Why do I feel something is wrong? Long Fei was speechless. It was completely different from what he thought. He began to look at Hong Jun carefully. This heaven is a bit cowardly. This is his final decision. But how did he know that Hong Jun had witnessed his ferocity, and he would behave like this at this time? If he hadn't witnessed everything Long Fei had done, who would make him bow his head? Of course, Dahai and Long Baishan are also exceptions. Ding, the system has detected that this person has merged with this world. He is the way of heaven, and the way of heaven is him. As for why it is so afraid of you, the system does not know. The system responded. Afraid of me? Long Fei raised his eyebrows, sensing the key point. That's right, when the system said this, Long Fei also clarified Hong Jun's attitude at this time. He is afraid of himself. Are you afraid of me? Long Fei asked. Hong Jun's expression froze. The smile on his face also froze. Murder and murder. He's still testing me, trying to force me to explode. But I can't. As the Tao of Heaven, I must focus on the overall situation. Hong Jun thought to himself. The next moment, he laughed sarcastically. Your Excellency has already touched the level of Tao. I, Hong Jun, have superficial cultivation, and I respect you very much. Hong Jun said. He felt that his life would be worse than death. I have already bowed my head to such an extent by myself. It is unexpected that Long Fei still refuses to let him go. Hearing these words, Long Fei couldn't calm down. Very good. WAP. K with Macron new SH mu 5. Net after a long time, Long Fei sighed. But it's okay, since he showed such a gesture at this time. The next thing he has to do is much simpler. In that case, then I won't talk nonsense. This time I want to ask you for someone, is that okay? Long Fei asked. But what Long Fei didn't expect was that Hong Jun, who had shown all before, shook his head repeatedly at the moment Long Fei's voice fell. Long Fei's face darkened. What? You don't want to? After endless coma, sure you suddenly got up from the bed. If you want to watch the latest chapter content, please download the Star Reading app, the latest chapter content without ads. The website has not updated the latest chapter content, and the Star Reading novel app has updated the latest chapter content. He took a big gulp of fresh air, his chest trembling. Confused, puzzled, all kinds of emotions came to my mind. Where's this? Afterwards, sure you subconsciously observed his surroundings, and then became even more at a loss. A single dormitory? Even if he was successfully rescued, he should be in the ward now. In my own body, how could there be no injuries at all? With doubts, sure you quickly swept his gaze across the room and finally settled on a mirror by the bedside. The mirror reflected his current appearance. He was about 17 or 18 years old, and he was very handsome. But the problem is, it's not him. Download the Star Reading app and read the latest chapter content without ads for free. My previous self was a handsome young man in his 20s who had been working for a while. But now, no matter how you look at it, this appearance is only the age of a high school student. This change left Shiryu in a daze for a long time. Don't tell him that the operation was a success. The body and appearance have changed. This is not a question of whether to have surgery or not, but a fairy art. He turned into a completely different person. Could it be that he crossed over by himself? In addition to the mirror on the bedside, which was obviously placed in a bad feng shui position, Shiryu also found 3 books beside it. Shiryu picked it up and took a look. The title instantly silenced him. Necessary Beast Breeding Handbook for Novice Breeders. Postpartum Care of Pet Animals. Guidelines for Evaluation of Alien Beast Ear Girls. Shiryu. The titles of the first 2 books are quite normal. What's the matter with you in the last one? Cough. Shiryu's eyes were serious, and he stretched out his hand, but soon his arm stiffened. Just when he was about to open the 3rd book to see what it was, his brain suddenly felt a stabbing pain, and a large amount of memories flooded him like a flood. Icefield City. Pet Breeding Base. Trainee Pet Keeper. The website will be closed soon. Download the Star Reading app to provide you with the most powerful upgrade system, Beastmaster. Chapter 5790. Chapter 5790. In an instant, the entire Zhixiao Palace seemed to collapse at this moment. Even though it carried Hongjuan's Law of Heaven, the change of Long Fei's aura still caused the Law of Heaven to collapse, and cracks appeared. Hongjuan's expression changed drastically. Wait. He hastily waved his hands. Don't be impatient, Your Excellency. I know the purpose of your coming, but I can't promise you. But it's for your own good. Hongjun said quickly, finishing in one breath. He didn't even dare to pause in his voice. I was afraid that if I was a step slower in speaking, it would make Long Fei unhappy and kill him. He even felt that he was now in a race against time. In the scene back then, this was the one who didn't agree with each other and immediately started to kill. Say, give me a reasonable explanation at the end. Otherwise, I'd like to see what it's like to kill a heaven realm. Long Fei said. Hongjun secretly cursed in his heart. Sure enough, it was here waiting for him. Kenshu. Zai with grave, I also want to see what it feels like to kill one. You're not satisfied with killing more than 100, right? Hongjun thought in his heart, but he absolutely dare not say such words. Slightly pondering, he said, I know that you are here for Nuwa, but if you strip her soul from the way of heaven, it will really cut off her retreat. Although I am the way of heaven, but Nuwa he is also my disciple. Hongjun said. Long Fei sneered. The way of heaven is ruthless, but at this time Hongjun played fan love, which made Long Fei a little at a loss for a while. WW. Until novel. Come, get to the point. Don't test my patience. Long Fei's expression was cold. Ahem, It's mainly because Your Excellency is here, so I want to give you a big gift. Help Niwa to escape. Hongjun said, loud and resolute. There was even an expression of extreme longing on his face. It seems that helping Niwa to escape is what he has been looking for in his life. And Long Fei's heart was also shaken. Detachment. He naturally knew Niwa's true strength at this time. Although she was a sage of heaven, she relied more on the power of heaven. Without the support of heaven, they would not even be considered unique, but only pseudo-unique. So at this time, Hongjun's words moved Long Fei very much. After all, Niwa is also his woman at this time, WW. Until novel. Calm. If he could let her take that step, Long Fei would naturally enjoy it. Tell me, how could she transcend? Long Fei asked. Hongjun heaved a sigh of relief. Seeing Long Fei's expression at this moment, he knew that Long Fei had moved and would not attack him at this time. Sure enough, I'm still better at chess. Hongjun felt a little proud in his heart, feeling that he had already walked on the verge of death. After pondering for a while, he continued, Your Excellency should know the cultivation system of this world. Although Nu Hua is a sage of heaven, she is using a trick. In addition to her merits, her soul enters the heaven. But in fact, her merits are only to promote the development of the human race in this world, and they are bestowed by the heavens, which cannot be counted. As Hongjun said, he paused slightly and looked at Long Fei. Long Fei was expressionless. Of course, he didn't have the slightest doubt about Hongjun's words. He naturally knew what was going on behind the merits of Niwa's creation of human beings. That has something to do with me. The civilization of the human race appeared because of me. And then? Long Fei asked. So, if Niwa wants to transcend, she must cut off her own obsession. Hongjun said. Long Fei was taken aback. Obsession? Suddenly he thought of the principle of sanctification in the prehistoric world, which is to cut off the three corpses. The three corpses are the good corpse, the evil corpse, and the obsessive corpse. Hongjun observed his words, saw Long Fei's reaction at this time, and guessed what he was thinking, and continued. The so-called obsession is the corpse of your obsession. Only if she takes this step by herself can she be detached. If you forcibly make a move, or if I make a move to strip her soul from the way of heaven, it will be absolutely impossible. Out of her way. Long Fei listened, and his face became ponderous. There is no way to refute. With Long Fei's insight, he naturally knew that what he said was true at this time. But this involves another problem. What you said really tempted me, but Niwa is unconscious at this moment. How can she escape? Long Fei asked. If Niwa is awake, he is naturally willing to let Niwa try. But now that Niwa's soul has an accident, if there is no return of the soul into heaven, it will be difficult for her to wake up, let alone cut off the three corpses. No, although Your Excellency has outrageous means and is in charge of killing and destroying, but caring makes chaos. The reason why Niwa can't wake up is not because of the destiny soul in the way of heaven, but because she has fallen into obsession at this time. In other words, she also wants to transcend herself. If she didn't perceive this, Pindao wouldn't dare to tell Your Excellency this. Hongjun said. Long Fei Tong Kong shrank. Caught in obsession, he asked back, his eyes locked on Hongjun's expression. But he saw Hongjun nodding his head firmly. You mean, if Niwa can't cut off her obsession, then she won't be able to wake up? Long Fei asked, with worry in his eyes. Hongjun nodded and said, That's right. However, I can allow you to integrate into the Tao of Heaven, wander above the order of the Tao of Heaven, and enter Niwa's obsession. When he said this, Hongjun was extremely serious. Although it's a shame for him, it's a great adventure. After all, he is the way of heaven. If Long Fei is allowed to integrate into the Tao of Heaven, it means that he will withdraw from the control of Tao of Heaven. If Long Fei has any thoughts, he will be expelled directly. But in order to be able to stabilize Long Fei, he felt that it was worth doing all this. Moreover, he is also aware of the competition between Long Fei, Dahai, and Long Batian. They are the absolute masters of this world, and when the calamity breaks out, the one who can truly control the fate of the prehistoric world must be one of the three of them. But at this moment, Long Batian has been ruled out by him, and the sea is extremely mysterious, as if it doesn't care much about everything. That's why he chose Long Fei. Integrate into the Tao of heaven. You don't think you want to do something secretly, do you? But at this time, Long Fei's voice came leisurely. Hong Jun, tired. Destroy it. He felt that Lao Fei was targeting him, and even wanted to kill him. What he didn't know was that Long Fei had already started in-depth communication with the system at this time. Long Fei. System, if I merge with the Tao of heaven, will I lose my initiative? System, no. On the contrary, it's Hong Jun who has to be more frightened. At that time, you will be above the order of the heaven. If you want, you can directly expel him from the heaven. Long Fei. So, he is the one who should be worried? But why'd he do this? In all fairness, I set off the conferred God calamity. Won't he target me? System, I don't know. In an instant, Long Fei had already analyzed everything from the system's mouth. Therefore, even the eyes have become complicated. It's hard to understand what Hong Jun is trying to figure out. After endless coma, sure you suddenly got up from the bed. If you want to watch the latest chapter content, please download the Star Reading app, the latest chapter content without ads. The website has not updated the latest chapter content, and the Star Reading novel app has updated the latest chapter content. He took a big gulp of fresh air, his chest trembling. Confused, puzzled, all kinds of emotions came to my mind. Where's this? Afterwards, Shiryu subconsciously observed his surroundings, and then became even more at a loss. A single dormitory? Even if he was successfully rescued, he should be in the ward now. In my own body, how could there be no injuries at all? With doubts, Shiryu quickly swept his gaze across the room and finally settled on a mirror by the bedside. The mirror reflected his current appearance. He was about 17 or 18 years old, and he was very handsome. But the problem is, it's not him. Download the Star Reading app and read the latest chapter content without ads for free. My previous self was a handsome young man in his 20s who had been working for a while. But now, no matter how you look at it, this appearance is only the age of a high school student. This change left Shiryu in a daze for a long time. Don't tell him that the operation was a success. The body and appearance have changed. This is not a question of whether to have surgery or not, but a fairy art. He turned into a completely different person. Could it be that he crossed over by himself? In addition to the mirror on the bedside, which was obviously placed in a bad feng shui position, Shiryu also found 3 books beside it. Shiryu picked it up and took a look. The title instantly silenced him. Necessary Beast Breeding Handbook for Novice Breeders. Postpartum Care of Pet Animals. Guidelines for Evaluation of Alien Beast Ear Girls. Shiryu. The titles of the first 2 books are quite normal. What's the matter with you in the last one? Cough. Shiryu's eyes were serious, and he stretched out his hand, but soon his arms stiffened. Just when he was about to open the 3rd book to see what it was, his brain suddenly felt a stabbing pain, and a large amount of memories flooded him like a flood. Icefield City. Pet Breeding Base. Trainee Pet Keeper. The website will be closed soon. Download the Star Reading app to provide you with the most powerful upgrade system, Beastmaster. Chapter 5791. Chapter 5791. The two fell silent. Hong Jun endured the humiliation in his heart. I'm a god, why have I ever bowed my knees so lowly? And Long Fei also had his own ideas. He was a god. How could he become a licking dog? This is unreasonable. However, this state did not last long and was soon broken. It was broken with the arrival of the 5 figures. As soon as the 5 people arrived, their expressions changed suddenly when they saw the 2 people facing each other in the field. Of course, more shock came from Long Fei. Who is this person? Can he sit on an equal footing with Master? How dare you face Master directly? How courageous! Where did this fierce man come from? Is this provoking the authority of heaven? The world is crazy, and it's getting more and more chaotic. Reading books, they have different thoughts, but the only thing they have in common is their fear of Long Fei. It's absolutely unusual for someone to be able to pose in such a posture in front of Tian Dao, and they couldn't sense Long Fei's aura. This shows that Long Fei's strength is already far above them. Long Fei just glanced at a few people indifferently, then withdrew his gaze. Hong Jun took advantage of the situation and said, "Since you don't believe it, you might as well take a look at them. They are all people whose souls have entered the way of heaven. You can try to strip their spirits from the way of heaven. Then you will know what I said was true. Long Fei, you are really good at it. Use your apprentice's wealth and life to lick it." The Taishang and others obviously didn't know what was going on, but when they heard that Hong Jun had actually asked Long Fei to strip their souls of heaven, they all had confusion in their eyes. Because they have the soul of the way of heaven, they are considered saints. If they don't have this kind of power, then they will come down from the position of saints, and without the power of saints, it will be difficult to survive in this world. After all, a catastrophe sweeping across the prehistoric land is about to happen. Under such a calamity, they themselves are already extremely difficult, and it is difficult to escape from it. If there is no support from the power of heaven now, they will also fall into catastrophe. Life and death will be difficult to control themselves. In an instant, the faces of several people became extremely embarrassing. "Master, what do you mean? Master, what did I do wrong? Master, absolutely not. Now that Fengshan Liangji has been invaded by thieves, their means are not weak. At this time, you must not take risks, master." At this time, one person said. Long Fei frowned and looked at the other party. "Ding, player, he is scolding you." The system said. "Cap A with the cute Delta 5. Ned, I know." Long Fei responded. "Then what are you waiting for? Haven't you been looking for an opportunity to make a move? This is the opportunity." The system responded. "Long Fei, are you so cruel? I am speaking the truth, although I am looking for an opportunity to show my hand, so that Tiandao can retreat in the face of difficulties. But since entering here, Tiandao's performance has been quite satisfactory, and there is no reason for him to make a move. But now the system is right, this is an opportunity." His eyes sank, and a chill appeared in Long Fei's eyes. But the moment he was about to speak, he froze. Because without waiting for him to make a move, Hong Jun sanctioned him for speaking up. When Hong Jun moved one hand, Jane's body was directly blocked by chains. On this chain, there is the meaning of divine punishment. "Presumptuous, you are still here as a teacher. It's your turn to speak. You are only a sage of the heavenly way, and being a teacher is the way of heaven. Now you dare to do it for you. Do you still want to be a teacher in the future?" Hong Jun snorted coldly. Immediately, the heavenly chains were like long whips, flashing with lightning and fire, whipping on Jiaying's body time and time again. "No, master, why is this?" Jiaying never had such an idea. A series of changes will lead to Demeng. He had no idea why he had such an innocent disaster. Didn't the decree come down before to target the people in the world of cholera? Isn't what he said now exactly his previous will? Why is it now that he has become a big rebel? No. I see that's what you're thinking about right now. You think that as a teacher, you don't know your plan, and you want to take advantage of the God conferred to measure calamity, to open up your civilization, and make your Western religion the mainstream of enlightening the world. Why? Now that you see the changes in conferred God quantity calamity, you want to replace me and carry out your teachings. Hong Jun snorted coldly. Hearing this, his face turned pale. The others were even more silent. They were deeply shocked by the scene they saw. Never thought it would be such a result. Today's Hong Jun doesn't look a little bit like the Supreme of Heaven, like a shrew cursing the street, but he doesn't care about his status at all. W.L. Furrow. Xwu. And at the same time, they also realized that the problem was wrong. Subconsciously, they set their eyes on Long Fei. Under the current situation, there is one and only one possibility, and it must be related to Long Fei, which made Hong Jun act like this. And Long Fei's identity is naturally ready to be revealed. For a while, everyone fell silent. A single guess made them silent like cicadas. Especially Jiaying, who has a bitter look on his face at this time. How could he have imagined that the person standing in front of him now was actually Cholera, the rightful lord of the gods, the thief he called himself? Long Fei was also shocked by the sudden scene in front of him. This is really watertight. Just as he was about to make a move, Hong Jun did this kind of thing, even going so far as to personally take action against him. Your Excellency, now is the opportunity. I will deprive him of the body of Sage, of the heavenly Tao, strip him of his soul, and you will be integrated into the Tao of heaven, and then you can enter the world of Nua's obsession. Hong Jun said. Long Fei remained silent. I always feel that Hong Jun has bad intentions. Ding, congratulations to the player for triggering the system task, surpassing the laws of heaven, and gaining insight into the fundamentals of the wild. While Long Fei was thinking about how to make a choice, the system's voice suddenly appeared. Long Fei was taken aback. There was a bit of disbelief in his eyes. System, are you kidding me? The task is triggered at this time? Besides, didn't you say that the task has disappeared? Long Fei wanted to refuse, but Hong Jun's attitude was a bit ambiguous. It's unbelievable that a heavenly Tao can lower his attitude to such an extent. The more so, the more suspicious Long Fei felt. But when the system triggered the task at this time, it caught Long Fei by surprise. Ding! The system doesn't know what's going on. Originally, even the mission function has disappeared. Even if I repaired it, it didn't recover, but at that moment, it seemed that an inexplicable force poured in and then triggered the system mission. And irreversible, the system responded with an unprecedentedly serious tone. A deep light appeared in Long Fei's eyes. He knows the system too well. If it was a task issued by the system would definitely not say such a thing with such a gesture. But at this time, he was so dignified, which is enough to show the seriousness of the situation. Irreversible? What will happen if I don't answer? Long Fei asked. Ding, if you don't answer, the player's cultivation will be sealed forever, just like the power sealed in your body at this time. Even if you're the only one, immortal, you can no longer use your power. The system responded. Chapter 5792. Chapter 5792. The words of the system shocked Long Fei, and then fell silent. It was like being imprisoned in an inexplicable cage. It turns out, someone can manipulate the system. This is something he never thought of. Moreover, from the words of the system, it can be clearly seen that even the system is ignorant of this power. Could it be the person who created the system? Long Fei thought to himself. The person who created the system was in the place of origin. Could it be because he entered the place of origin that he attracted their attention? But in a flash, Long Fei felt something was wrong again. My own system seems to be inextricably linked to the sea. Could it be that the sea is the one doing the tricks? As Long Fei thought about it, his eyes became even more serious. Ding! Congratulations to the player for accepting the task. Mission objective: to be in harmony with the way of heaven, to gain insight into the root of the prehistoric world. Mission time: 3 days. Mission reward: calamity energy. The energy of calamity. It can greatly increase the power of calamity. Omega Omega W. Net mission punishment: banning cultivation. The sound of the system appeared one after another, and Long Fei also fell into restlessness. This quest comes inexplicably, and the quest requirements and rewards seem to have a deep meaning, which is completely different from before. The emergence and rewards of the previous system tasks were all to improve oneself. But this time, it seemed to be leading him in a certain direction. But there is no way. Now the task has appeared, and it is irreversible, and now it has been automatically accepted. All I can do is to complete it. Thinking of this, he said, I promised you, since you were so sincere in inviting me, if I refuse you again, I will lose face. Long Fei said. Hong Jun's expression eased, as if a boulder in his heart had finally landed. Okay, I will strip off the soul of this traitor, Hong Jun said. He made up his mind that there must be no conflict with Long Fei, so he did not hesitate to sacrifice to lead. Jane seemed to realize this at this time, and bowed his head without saying a word, as if he had resigned himself to his fate. But at the moment Hong Jun was about to make a move, Long Fei stopped him. No need. It's meaningless to enter the way of heaven. Since you want to do it, you should be thorough and fit the way of heaven. Long Fei said. and then looked at Hong Jun. This is not a temptation. Since the system task requires it, he can only do it. What surprised him was that when his voice fell, he thought that Hong Jun would become angry. After all, the prerequisite for him to be fit for heaven was to squeeze him out. But Hong Jun didn't show this kind of performance. He just froze for a moment, and then a gleam burst out his eyes. Kinshu, Zai with grave, Your Excellency, are you serious? Hong Jun's voice was a little trembling, and his emotions were extremely complicated, with a bit of disbelief in his anticipation, as if this was not a calamity for him, but an opportunity. Long Fei was dumbfounded, and looked at Hong Jun with a frown. Hong Jun's reaction was beyond his expectation. You seem to be looking forward to it? Long Fei asked. I don't dare to hide it. From the moment I fit into the Tao of Heaven, I wanted to get out of it all the time. This kind of eternal life, this kind of supremacy is more like a cage. Moreover, as time goes by, my thinking, my humanity, and my ego are slowly being assimilated, as if they have become the rules themselves, Hong Jun said. Long Fei Tong Kong shrank. What the hell? I thought that doing this would embarrass Hong Jun, but only now did he realize that he was really thinking too much. There's no embarrassment here. It's clearly here to give benefits. Hong Jun has waited countless years, and now he is about to rescue him from the sea of suffering by such a mistake. Moreover, Long Fei did not doubt that Hong Jun's words were false. The eagerness and expectation in his eyes was very real in Long Fei's eyes. If you say that, it's still dangerous to be in harmony with the Tao of Heaven, Long Fei said in a deep voice. For Pindao, it may be a tribulation, but for Your Excellency, it may be an opportunity. Hong Jun said suddenly. How to say? Long Fei asked back. After I fit into the Tao of Heaven, I would occasionally be inspired by a certain will. But it was a bit of a trick for me to become the Tao of Heaven, so I didn't dare to approach that summon of will at all. But Your Excellency is different. Your strength has already surpassed the way of heaven. You have entered the great way, and you have become the law of incarnation. Therefore, with your strength, you can explore what kind of existence that will is. Hong Jun said. Long Fei pondered. Although Hong Jun is in harmony with the way of heaven, in terms of strength, he is also tantamount to the only realm. Although there is still some gap with myself, it is not an easy generation. But the more so, the more curious Long Fei was. What is the existence that can exude its own will, which makes Hong Jun so afraid? All of a sudden, Long Fei felt curious in his heart. Seeing Long Fei's expression, Hong Jun already knew that Long Fei was tempted, and quickly said, I once guessed that this will occur in the prehistoric world itself. As if in this world, there's a place that the Tao of Heaven has never controlled, and that will emanates from it. Long Fei looked to Hong Jun. At this moment, he suddenly thought of the picture he saw in the ancient times. Countless stars fell, and the place where it fell was the prehistoric world. Reminiscing that he didn't find any strange aura in the world wrapped by his divine sense before, Long Fei began to guess in his heart that maybe that place had a great connection with what Hong Jun said at this time. Thinking of this, Long Fei didn't have any reluctance in his heart. It's really interesting. If that's the case, get out of the way of heaven. I'll do it. Long Fei said domineeringly. No matter what, pretending to be like the wind is always with me. Especially when Hong Jun lowered his posture so much in front of him. How could he miss it? But at this moment, Hong Jun had a bitter expression on his face. Your Excellency, I don't know. Although I have tried countless times to escape from the Tao of Heaven, I have never succeeded. It seems that Tao of Heaven is a cage that requires special power to open. Hong Jun said. Long Fei was taken aback. Special power? Ding! Players could try to use Jie Yin's power. At this time, the system suddenly interrupted. Long Fei's eyes lit up. If possible, perhaps only this kind of power can undo the shackles of heaven. In the next moment, his palm moved, and an unexplainable force that could not be seen directly appeared in his hand. Is it this thing? Long Fei asked. Cannot wait for any response. The entire Zixiao Palace suddenly collapsed in front of him. Not only that, All of the supreme heavenly Tao saints showed horror on their faces, and even Hongjuan's eyes showed great fear. Long Fei quickly held his hand. He also didn't expect that Jie Yin's power would be so powerful that it would make them reveal this expression. This is the seed of heavenly robbery. Hongjun let out a horrified expression. Even looking at Long Fei's expression changed. Chapter 5793. Chapter 5793 regarding Long Fei. He knew much more than the Taishang and others. The conversation between Dahai and Long Batian did not shy away from him. At that time, he knew that Long Fei was absolutely unusual. Even it is related to a big secret. This is also the fundamental reason why he is willing to make the previous gesture. But at this moment, his fear became instinctive. The moment Long Fei showed this kind of power, he understood how terrifying Long Fei was. With this power alone, he can collapse the heavens in an instant. Heavenly tribulation seed, Long Fei repeated, but it was a question. Hongjun nodded. That's right. Any world will have its own rules from birth. And above the rules, there is a calamity. Kappa with acute delta 5. Net, that's what it means to end the void and come up with a calamity. It seems to be a force born to destroy the rules. Whenever there is a deviation in the operation of the heavens, the calamity will come. Hongjun explained. Long Fei's expression was serious. I never expected that the power I felt in a single thought had such a big background. Born to destroy rules? Sound like a dick. Then can this power undo your heavenly shackles and free you from it? Long Fei asked. Hongjun nodded heavily, with endless expectations in his eyes. Of course, if you can't even do it with this kind of power, I'm afraid there is no power in the world that can do it. Hongjun gave an affirmative answer. He didn't expect that he would see hope at this moment for what he had planned for countless years. It can only be said that happiness came too suddenly. Okay, then I'll try it. Long Fei said, simply decisive. Since this power is feasible, there is nothing to hesitate. After all, this mission is only 3 days long, and Yuhua is also involved in it. My lord, please follow me. Hongjuan's attitude became more respectful, and even his title changed. But at this time, he was not dissatisfied in the slightest. After all, whether he can escape from the Tao of Heaven is entirely in Long Fei's hands at this time. Without any hesitation, Long Fei followed Hongjun into the endless void with a flash of his figure. Soon, the two passed through endless nothingness and came to a mountain range. This is a mountain born from nothingness. It is filled with the charm of heaven, and it is extremely rich. The way of heaven is invisible, but after I fit into the way of heaven, I felt that there must be a place to live, so I made the way of heaven concrete. And here is Tiandao Mountain. As Hongjun said, he pushed away the clouds and mist and presented the face of Tiandao Mountain in front of Long Fei. Long Fei was amazed. It is also a talent to visualize intangible props. Now my body is in the heavenly Tao Mountain. It's ridiculous to say that I concretized the rules of the heavenly Tao as a mountain of the heavenly Tao, but I was bound in a cocoon and painted the ground as a prison. It's not just me. It's the same with Nuwa and their spirits at this time. WAP. K with Macron Nu SH Mu 5. Net. And the rules on Tiandao Mountain are the cages, which make it impossible for us to break free. Hongjun said bitterly. This can be said to be the choice he regrets the most. Back then, in order to be able to suppress the riots in the ancient times and conform to the meaning of the Tao, he opened the first robbery of the Dragon and Han dynasty, and he also took advantage of the situation to become the Tao of Heaven. But this is not a gift, but a constraint. Since then, he has no relationship with detachment. Even with the power beyond heaven and earth, he is still a prisoner, powerless to change. Throughout the ages, he has been thinking about getting out of the shackles of the heavens all the time, but there is nothing he can do, but he didn't expect that now. By accident, Long Fei would want to replace him, so he naturally couldn't wish for it. Long Fei heard Hongjuan's explanation. Digu also appeared in my heart. I finally understood why Hongjun agreed so readily before. and now his feelings are like helping him out of the sea of suffering. But things have come to this. No matter what, Long Fei will naturally go out at this step. Okay, since that's the case, just leave the rest to me. Long Fei said, didn't flinch. Not only is it a system task, but more importantly, he suspects that the special existence that Hong Jun mentioned is very likely to be related to the place where the stars fall, and if he wants to find that place, he must be in harmony with the way of heaven. First step, Hong Jun folded his hands and retreated. The moment Long Fei's figure disappeared, Tiandao Mountain also disappeared out of thin air. Long Fei remained calm. No surprises. After all, this is the power that Hong Jun embodied, not the real existence of the Tao of heaven. The way of heaven is invisible, it is a rule, and it is supreme. It is also because Hong Jun has integrated the way of heaven that he has the power to visualize the way of heaven. But Long Fei naturally has his own means. As Hong Jun said, the way of heaven is a prison. If you compare him to a prison, Hong Jun and others are just prisoners. But Long Fei is different. Long Fei controls the tribulation seed of the heavenly Tao, which is equivalent to controlling the key of this prison. In other words, he is the one who controls this prison. With one thought, Long Fei took out the power of Jia-in and presented it in his hands. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the nothingness in front of him became restless, and countless forces intertwined vertically and horizontally, as if they were latitude and longitude. Countless regular lines intertwined to form a space standing in nothingness. And this is the most fundamental manifestation of the way of heaven. Long Fei stepped forward and approached directly. The next moment, the power of Jia-in in his hand seemed to burn like a flame, and then directly merged into the illusory space in front of him, visible to the naked eye. In an instant, streaks of light and shadow floated out of it. It is the soul that Hong Jun and others have integrated into it, even including Nuwa. It's just different from the others. Nuwa's soul is in a state of deep sleep, and her expression is extremely tangled, as if she is stuck in a quagmire and cannot extricate herself. Long Fei frowned, feeling a little unusual. Thank you, my lord, for taking the shot. Hong Jun had endless joy on his face. He fits the way of heaven, and he is the most essential him at this time. Originally, he was extremely afraid of Long Fei, but now because Long Fei escaped from the sea of suffering, he has infinite respect in his eyes. As for the Taishan class, they have a dazed expression on their faces, even a look of confusion. What's the matter with Nuwa? Long Fei ignored Hong Jun's words and asked directly. My lord, Nuwa has fallen into obsession. If I'm not mistaken, the change of her soul should have something to do with what I said, the will beyond that day. Hong Jun explained Road. Is it related to that place? What's going on? Long Fei was even more puzzled. Several heavenly sages are fine. Why only Nuwa would fall into this state, which makes the public fee puzzled? Hong Jun shook his head. Frankly speaking, he didn't know why this happened, and what he said was just his own speculation. Now that Long Fei showed so much concern for Nuwa, he naturally didn't dare to talk nonsense. At this point, Long Fei's eyes narrowed into a line. It seems that there are some things that I can only understand after I am in heaven, he said lightly, then ignored Hong Jun and the others at all, and stepped into the space woven by the rules of that day's Tao in one step. Chapter 5794. Chapter 5794 rules have always been illusory. At least, that's what Long Fei thought before he stepped into the space woven by the Tao of Heaven. But when he entered it, he realized that he was wrong. Heaven also has its own consciousness. The moment he entered this space, a voice suddenly appeared in his mind. You finally came. The voice was tired, as if it had been waiting for too long. It was always waiting for Long Fei. Are you waiting for me? Long Fei felt incredible. Long Fei felt inexplicable. Why do I suddenly feel like a heartbroken man, and the other party is looking forward to it? But Long Fei swears that although he has been a soaring lunatic, he is the spirit of the ancient world and has nothing to do with this prehistoric world. Of course, I have been waiting for you for countless years. That voice appeared again. Are you the Tao of heaven? Long Fei asked again. Getting an affirmative answer from the other party made Long Fei feel inexplicably terrified. It's the first time he's trying to think of the way of heaven. Why suddenly it seems like he has done something before? That's right. I can't say what kind of existence I am, but I have appeared since the opening of the sky. I witnessed with my own eyes that you created the world, killed many powerful people, and watched you leave from me. At that time, I wish you could stay, but unfortunately, there's a person who is too terrifying and directly suppressed my consciousness. Even if I wanted to ask you to stay, I didn't have the strength. The voice of heaven appeared again. Long Fei. Long Fei felt his mind was blank. What the hell? Create heaven and earth? Kill a lot of horror beings? That's what I did. That's what he did. Did you recognize the wrong person? Long Fei frowned. This way of dialogue made Long Fei feel out of place, as if the two of them were not on the same channel at all. No, I will always remember your breath. But it's normal that you don't remember those things. That terrifying existence sealed your power and memory and told me, let me guide you to do something. The voice of heaven said. Hearing this sentence, Long Fei's expression froze instantly. In an instant, his heart swelled and his eyes became heavy. He has always felt that he has lost some memories. Although he doesn't know exactly what memories, he feels that those are extremely important to him. Knowing this news from Tian Daoku at this moment made Long Fei more certain that the memories he had lost must have great significance to him, even related to the apocalypse. Since you said you witnessed everything, then tell me, what happened back then? Also, what kind of existence is that terrifying existence you mentioned? Long Fei continued to ask. He desperately wants to know everything. The person behind him controls absolutely terrifying power. Not only can control his own memory, but also can change the system. If this kind of person doesn't know who it is, his life and death will not be guaranteed. However, at this time, the voice of heaven suddenly fell silent. I didn't speak again. Long Fei frowned and looked around. What do you mean? Didn't you say that I created you? If so, you still have to hold back on me? Long Fei's tone was not kind, feeling that fate was being dominated. Suddenly, he thought of a more terrifying possibility. Maybe this system task at this time is at the mercy of that person. This is horrible. That's why he wanted to know who it was. Sorry, I can't do it. I don't know the reason. I can clearly remember those pictures, but I can't express them. It seems that there's an inexplicable force swaying me. The voice of heaven continued. Is there power around you? Long Fei gasped, feeling more and more shocked and horrified. Is it the sea? Or the owner of that terrifying hand? Two figures flashed in Long Fei's mind. In his impression, only these two existences might have such power. If it's the sea, it's okay. After all, the sea has been laid out for too long and too much. If it really has been laid out in this world, there is no surprise. www.kaho5.net. That's right. That power is very mysterious above the rules. It's like what you human beings often say about me alone. Yes, in the face of that kind of power, the rules have to bow their heads. The voice of heaven continued to speak, and even his tone became a little trembling. Long Fei was silent for a moment. Then what did he ask you to guide me? Long Fei asked. He said, let you become the way of heaven, let you become the rule, and then go find the place where the stars fell. The voice of the way of heaven responded. When Long Fei heard this, Tong Kong shrank. Sure enough, WAP, K with Macron Nu SHMU5. Net my system task is indeed related to that power. Thinking of this, Long Fei said, then what should we do? He didn't resist. If you want to get the answer, you must go down this road. Even if it was the path planned by the other party, he had no retreat. As long as I recognize you as the master, I was born because of you. As long as I recognize you as the master, you are the master of the way of heaven, and you are the master of the rules of this world. At that time, I will naturally be able to use the identity of the way of heaven to perceive that place that has existed forever but is not seen between heaven and earth. The voice of heaven continued. Long Fei's eyes also changed suddenly. So simple. As long as you recognize yourself as the master, isn't this a free door-to-door benefit? The reward for this task are still extremely rich, and the energy of the robbery is exactly what he needs. But it is too simple. He thought he would have to go through a lot of trouble, but he didn't expect that it was just to let the other party recognize the master. Moreover, the other party kept saying that it was because of him that he was born, as if he was waiting for his arrival, and then recognized himself as the master. This kind of coincidence, the traces are too obvious. It seems that you don't worry about me discovering it all. Long Fei chuckled lightly, but after a moment, his eyes became indifferent. Okay, if that's the case, then I'll follow this path later, and I want to see who it is. But what Long Fei didn't know was that at this moment in the galaxy of nothingness, the sea was leaning against the beach, enjoying the afternoon sun leisurely. Until novel. Calm, law of course, this world was naturally transformed by their power. Beside him is Long Batian. But this time, Long Batian looked extremely stable, as if he had experienced something that would be unforgettable to his heart, and he was no longer as arrogant as before. Brother Hai, do you think Long Fei is really capable of turning the tide? Why do I feel that he is going in the opposite direction? Long Batian took a puff of his cigar and said calmly. And when he mentioned Long Fei, he was extremely calm, not filled with righteous indignation like before, let alone killing intent or fighting for power. It seemed that he had given up on the contest with Long Fei. I don't know, just like everything you do is destined, what he does must be done. I just use some means to guide him. As for how far he can go, it depends on himself. Dahai said, lifting it in his hand. Clatter. A colorful fish as dazzling as a star river took the bait. Chapter 5795. Chapter 5795. The screen turns. The moment the spirit of heaven recognized the Lord, Long Fei felt his heart move, and a power of absolute control emerged in his heart. It is no exaggeration to say that he is now the Lord of Heaven. The whole prehistoric world seemed to be just in his mind. Is this the way of the heavens? Long Fei sighed slightly. This power is awesome. No wonder even Hong Jun and the sage of heavenly Tao couldn't resist the temptation. They would rather give up their freedom to have this power. At this moment, Long Fei felt a supreme feeling, as if when he thought, it can control the lifeline of the prehistoric world, and it can be seen in one's eyes at 4 o'clock day and night. What's more, if he wants to, he can arbitrarily decide the fate of the prehistoric creatures. But Long Fei didn't have such a bad taste. Although this sense of control was very mysterious, it was of no use to Long Fei. He is truly the only one after great freedom. He is detached above the heavens and worlds, so how could he be confused by this nihilistic power? In just a moment, his mind was withdrawn. Since I am in harmony with the Tao of Heaven, why can't I still perceive Nuwa's thoughts? Long Fei asked. Master, Nuwa's divine soul is now in name only. This thought has been attracted by the will of that place, and has been immersed in it. Although it still exists now, it has been separated from the main body. The spirit of heaven responded. Long Fei was taken aback for a moment, and his heart sank. He did all this largely because of Nuwa. But now, fortunately, the system actually told me that Nuwa's soul has been split, and there is no connection with the main body. Doesn't this mean that what I'm doing now is completely meaningless? All of a sudden, Long Fei felt angry in his chest, as if he had been tricked. However, the master can enter that peace of heaven and earth. If he can find the obsession of Nuwa's spirit, maybe he can destroy his obsession and let Nuwa's spirit return. The spirit of heaven seemed to sense Long Fei's anger, said quickly. Long Fei nodded. It's better to be like this, otherwise the whole prehistoric world will wait to be buried with you. Long Fei's voice was cold. He was never a saint. If it wasn't for him, Nuwa wouldn't have risked herself, and naturally she wouldn't have fallen to the present situation. Furthermore, Nuwa is his woman, and with his temperament, if he can bring Nuwa back if he overturns the world, he doesn't mind doing so. After finishing speaking, Long Fei also withdrew his mind, and he began to calm himself down to perceive the special place mentioned by the Spirit of Heaven. Time passed quietly. It took Long Fei half a month to perceive this one. But within half a month, Long Fei didn't perceive any possibility of the existence of other wills. W. Alfaro. Xwu. Net could be a trap, right? So much trouble is spent just to confuse me and force me to conform to the Tao of Heaven. But the Tao of Heaven is not a prison for me at all. As long as I think about it, I will be able to do it with just one thought. Can get out of this state. Long Fei woke up and began to think. Omega Omega W. Net no way, he was short of time. It has been half a month now, which made him feel anxious. Master, it seems that the will is also avoiding your existence. But there are still 3 days at most, and they will definitely appear. While Long Fei was meditating, the voice of the Spirit of Heaven appeared again. How to say? Long Fei asked. Although that place is hidden, it exists only by relying on this side of heaven and earth. And in 3 days, when the wheel of heaven restarts, just like the alternation of day and night, when the restart starts, that place will also appear, and there is nowhere to hide shape. The Spirit of Heaven explained. Kappa with acute Delta 5. That he naturally knew everything about Long Fei. The wheel of heaven restarted? What does this mean? Long Fei asked. He was stunned. Regarding the wheel of heaven, he has naturally noticed it. This thing is like a gear, constantly rotating, and above it is the foundation of all order, controlling the operation of the prehistoric world. But if this thing is restarted, doesn't it mean that all order and rules will collapse? Wouldn't the prehistoric world be plunged into chaos by then? To put it simply, it is the baptism of rules. Many rules and orders will continue to change according to changes in the world. For example, before, the witches and monsters ruled the world. When they were destroyed, the heavenly gears experienced a restart. Tiandao's spirit explained. Long Fei realized something in his heart. In this way, it means that the catastrophe of heaven and earth will lead to changes in the rules of heaven and earth. And every reboot represents an era. Thinking in his heart, Long Fei's mind was shocked. So, the restart in 3 days will be the beginning of the great calamity. Long Fei asked, Yes, this is an inevitable process under the operation of the rules. It's just that this time there are some differences. The Spirit of Heaven said, It used to be a fixed number, but now because of the appearance of the Master, the rules and order have become chaotic. This restart can only represent the change of the world, but there is no direction, and the next era cannot be set. The Spirit of Heaven said. Long Fei nodded. He didn't have the slightest doubt about this. But also normal, whether it's him or Hailong Batian, since they decided to come like a catastrophe. The order of that day's Tao cannot be controlled at all. Then tell me, can I intervene forcibly? Long Fei asked. Now that the order is in chaos, the future is not a foregone conclusion. But if he forcibly intervenes and then specifies the rules, it will be fine to directly make him the master of the era. Impossible. Master, you will fight in the next era. If you make a move, it will lead to even greater changes. The Spirit of Heaven repeatedly denied it. Long Fei's face darkened. God's shit is useless. You thought you could do it in secret? I didn't expect it to be up to me in the end. Long Fei said, Spirit of Heaven, what a big pot. Can I say that my own strength is not enough? But I dare not. Long Fei was not entangled in this issue. He also knew that there was Dahai, and with Dahai's terrifying means, if he really made a move, Dahai would be able to detect it immediately and might kill him directly at that time. Suppressing all thoughts, Long Fei continued to perceive. 3 days passed in a flash. Just at the moment of the 3rd day, Long Fei felt that the entire order of heaven collapsed in an instant. Brush. Long Fei opened his eyes instantly. Spirit of the Tao of Heaven, what's going on? Didn't you say it's just a restart? Why is everything crashing now? Long Fei's face was heavy. Originally, he could still monitor the prehistoric world and capture the prehistoric world in a single thought. In this way, even if something happens in the prehistoric world, It cannot be hidden from his eyes, and he can react at any time. But now, the order of heaven and earth has completely collapsed, and even if he fits the law of heaven, he can't perceive any information about the prehistoric world. Master, a major event has happened. This time it is not a restart, but the will, which appeared directly, replaced it and expelled us. The spirit of heaven panicked. Long Fei. At this moment, tens of thousands of Chow Nima galloped past Long Fei's heart. I thought I was a hunter, but in the end, I was the prey. Chapter 5796. Chapter 5796. The sudden change made Long Fei feel angry. He never thought that it would end like this. I was still busy hunting here, but I didn't expect to be robbed directly. Then how to remedy it now? Long Fei asked. Now Long Fei felt as if the world had turned upside down. Originally, he was still in charge of the light and controlled everything, but now he was sunk in the darkness all of a sudden. This reversal happened in an instant, so fast that Long Fei didn't even react. He didn't even have any sense before, and there was no sign of the whole reversal, and everything was reversed in an instant. I don't know either. The spirit of heaven responded. The calmness before was gone, and the voice was full of panic. Obviously, he is also extremely afraid of this kind of power. He is different from the system. He is a spirit body with autonomous consciousness, so it is not surprising to show such emotions. Long Fei, have no idea? Don't make trouble. You are the spirit of heaven. And I don't know now? Master, I really don't know, and my existence seems to have no right to influence the other party. The spirit of heaven said. Long Fei was taken aback. Not eligible? What do you mean? To a certain extent, the spirit of heaven itself is a kind of rule, a kind of order, which itself represents the supremacy of a certain existence. But now the spirit of heaven actually said that he is not qualified to influence another kind of power, which surprised Long Fei. Master, in fact, I have always had a guess, but I didn't tell you before. The spirit of heaven said in a low voice. What guess? Long Fei asked. I suspect that the existence of that will is above the prehistoric world. It's not that they're lurking in the prehistoric world, but that the prehistoric world is in the other party's package. The spirit of heavenly Tao said, www. Until novel. Calm, Long Fei's eyes shrank instantly, and he fell silent. Suddenly, he thought of the scene he saw in the ancient times. That is a picture of wandering outside the prehistoric world. He saw the decaying stars fall. It was just a quick glance at that time. Before he had time to explore, he was summoned back by the power of time and space. But now that the spirit of heaven said this, Long Fei instantly connected the two. If you say that, I've been caught in a misunderstanding, Long Fei said after pondering. He always thought that the place where the stars fell was in the prehistoric world, or in other words, it was the prehistoric world. But now it seems that his thinking has been biased. But if it is said that the existence is above the prehistoric world, why should it turn to control the prehistoric world at this time? Long Fei said, this is what he doesn't understand. If it is said that the place where the stars fall exists outside the prehistoric world, or controls the prehistoric world, then there is no need to control it the other way around. The spirit of heaven was silent, not daring to make a sound, so as not to affect Long Fei. If it doesn't make sense, it's just like me now. If I were to say it the other way around, I would never do it if I were asked to lose an existence under the only one. Unless I have reached the point of life and death, I have no choice. Long Fei was talking to himself, but suddenly fell silent again. All of a sudden, he seemed to have grasped some key existence. Between life and death, there is no choice. In an instant, Long Fei's eyes lit up. Aling, do you think there is a possibility? You said that the hidden will is about to die, and now it is desperate, trying to survive with the help of the prehistoric world. Long Fei said, this. The voice of the spirit of heaven was shocked. He never thought of this possibility. But at this moment, when these words came out of Long Fei's mouth, he didn't have the slightest doubt. Not impossible, but very possible. Since this will exists and is extremely ancient, it proves that he already has his own consciousness. With consciousness, there is the possibility of not being erased. It is even said that the opponent is already at the end of his battle. He can only reverse now, and at this moment is to seize the prehistoric world as the basis for his own survival. Thinking of this, Long Fei felt a sense of enlightenment, www. Until novel. Calm, but on second thought, Long Fei felt helpless in his heart. Despite some guesses, his current situation is too embarrassing. After the reversal, his soul power seems to be imprisoned, and he can't even perceive any cognition from the outside world. I don't know what's going on in the prehistoric world now. If it's a restart, it's the opening of the prehistoric calamity. Now that the way of heaven is expelled and ruled by that will, what will happen? Thinking of this, Long Fei felt even more gloomy. After all, the prehistoric world now has many entanglements with him. At this time, the prehistoric world, at that moment when the will ruled the prehistoric world, several figures came out of nothingness. It's a very familiar atmosphere, as if there is someone who is important to me here. One of them said, I also have this feeling, but it doesn't matter, no matter who it is the past for us. When we return from death, it is already a new life. Moreover, the adults said that if we want to truly exist, we must to obliterate the way of heaven in this world. Another voice responded, You go first, there is another me here. It's not low, it should be my body. I want to find this existence, and then kill him, so that my power can truly reach the unique state. Immediately afterwards, another voice appeared, and her appearance is actually the same as that of Nu Hua. Of course, if Long Fei was here, he would be even more surprised, and maybe there will be tears in my eyes. Because all the people who appeared here at this time were people he was familiar with. There is even an existence that he wants to resurrect with all his heart. It's just a pity that at this time, Long Fei was sunk in darkness and didn't know everything. And on the other side, above nothingness, Hong Jun was wandering back with a few saints. And at this moment, fear appeared on their faces. This is not the way of heaven? Where is the way of heaven? What kind of breath is this? Why does it feel so weird, full of decay and death? Teacher, what happened to this? Why is there such a will above heaven and earth? What about heaven? Several heavenly saints looked flustered. Hong Jun was taken aback for a moment. But soon, as if he had thought of something, his expression was stunned. He failed? Has changed hands now? But how is this possible? Even the existence of the sea can't be controlled, and Long Batian even travels through time and space to snipe and kill. He failed to drink hatred, so how could he fail? Hong Jun was completely panicked. His whole face was bloodless. He used to be fit for heaven, so he naturally knows something that others don't. At this time, I thought of certain possibility, and I couldn't calm down anymore. And at this moment, he suddenly felt a gaze suddenly fall on him. Immediately afterwards, a voice appeared. Want to live? Come to Tiandao Mountain to see me. In an instant, Hong Jun fell into an abyss. Chapter 5797. Chapter 5797. Above a galaxy of nothingness. The two figures stood side by side. But suddenly, the figure of Long Batian got up, and his eyes swept directly to the direction of the prehistoric world. Long Fei's aura has disappeared? He frowned. Dahai had already told him some of his plans, so he naturally knew about Long Fei's fit with the Tao of Heaven. But even so, he could still catch Long Fei's aura. But at this moment, Long Fei's breath disappeared instantly. When it comes to their existence, as long as a person exists between heaven and earth, they can capture a thought. In particular, Long Fei is also the only realm, the only body in the world, and there's a special energy between the heaven and the earth, www. Until novel. However, at this moment, the aura about Long Fei suddenly disappeared without a trace. Hai also frowned slightly. His gaze became heavy. What? Isn't this your plan? Seeing Dahai's expression, Long Batian was also puzzled. No, in my plan, It was Long Fei who devoured this will. But, to my surprise, this will can turn against the guest and suppress Long Fei. Dahai said in a deep voice. Long Batian raised his eyebrows. What will? Even Long Fei can be suppressed? That kid is so heaven-defying. How can he still be suppressed? Long Batian was shocked and couldn't believe it. You don't know anything about that existence. Dahai shook his head and said softly, What exists? Long Batian's face changed again. He knows the sea too well, and the power of the sea is even more unfathomable, reaching an indescribable level. But that's it. It can be seen that he is so dignified towards another existence at this time. The Lord of everything returns to void, said the sea. Long Batian. He wanted to ask a question. How many years should he be sentenced to be clear? It's that simple, who knows what it is. However, Dahai didn't mean to explain. He got up slowly, stepped out, and his figure disappeared into the galaxy of nothingness, in the direction he was going. Nature is the prehistoric world. Long Batian hesitated for a moment, and then did not stay, turning into a stream of light and heading towards the prehistoric world. And at the same time, in the prehistoric world, in the Yinshang Hall, what's the matter? A Long Fei is so terrifying. What is this now? Why does it feel like a butcher's knife is hanging on his head, and he will be killed at any time? DXIN's expression was extremely embarrassing. Right now, he feels extremely depressed. It was as if an inexplicable force had locked him in, as if a pair of eyes were monitoring his actions. And there is Ing who also feels this way. Above the nether sea of blood in the fairyland, Ing also fell into silence. Omega Omega W. Net Long Fei, your aura has disappeared, but I believe that you will not die. Ing looked up at the sky, pondering in his heart. He more or less knew something about Long Fei. Then he even used his own detachment method to deduce something when Long Fei returned to the ancient times through time and space. It was also because of this that he had absolute confidence in Long Fei, and he did not believe that Long Fei would disappear inexplicably. And at the same time, he could feel that he was being watched at this time. Great Emperor, what happened? Why do you feel restless? Bai Qi finally spoke. He had been waiting by Ying's side for a long time, but seeing that Ing still kept silent, he asked. It's okay. Ing didn't say. He could guess that the power monitoring him did not target Bai Qi and the others. In other words, only the existence of the only realm is monitored by that power. What he cares about is only the existence of Xion in this world. Bai Qi raised his head and wanted to say something more, but finally fell silent. Who knows what you want to say? Do you think this world is extremely scary, and my fairy country is struggling here? Ing asked. I nodded. Facing Ing, he couldn't hide all his thoughts. This time the conquest of Yinshang made him feel unprecedentedly difficult. Although he didn't make a move, his cultivation base has reached this point after all, and the difference of one step is already the only realm. Therefore, he knew better how powerful Ing was. That is a peerless existence. But this time, his face lacked the unparalleled aura of being the great emperor of the fairy kingdom in the past, and he was often silent. In addition, he felt an extremely terrifying aura enveloped him before. Although it disappeared in an instant, it was extremely real. So at this moment, he hesitated in his heart. He even had a feeling that terrible changes were about to take place in this world. If he continued to stay here, even the great emperor would be in crisis. Kappa with acute Delta 5. Ned is a strong man who has stepped out of killing and fighting. He is not afraid of life and death. But what Ing carries is a world. If there's an accident, the fairyland world may collapse. Don't worry, the widow has already made a plan. Ing said. Immediately afterwards, the immortal kingdom in the palm appeared in his hand. Long Fei has a problem. When he summoned the widow, the so-called system he gave has disappeared. However, the widow has obtained the power to return to the fairyland world from DXN. You also know the law of the fairy kingdom in the palm. You take the fairy kingdom away. I still want to see what is the mystery of the things here. Ing Chun said in a deep voice. Of course he refused to leave. Everything that happened here gave birth to the idea of fighting in his heart. In the fairyland world, he is already detached and the supreme existence. But here, it gave him a sense of oppression. He has not experienced this feeling for a long time, and now he naturally wants to try again. Bai Qi was taken aback, but dare not refute. He understood Ying's temperament, and at this moment he felt the long-lost sense of conquest in Ying's body, which he had never felt when he was in the fairyland. Emperor, let Wang Jian take people back. I want to follow the earth and fight another city. His eyes were sharp, and his fighting spirit rose. The conquest on Ying's body stimulated him, and made him want to try to see if he could go further. Ying shook his head. There is no need to take any risks. If Long Fei succeeds this time, the world will undergo tremendous changes. The fairyland world will also change accordingly, and the opportunity for you to transcend will also come into being. Equals, and if an accident happens here, the world of a mortal kingdom will be unavoidable. Letting you go back now is also a backup for the widow. If something unexpected happens, you should be prepared. Ying said. He had a feeling in his heart. The survival of the heavens depends on Long Fei. If the dragon flies into success, the 10,000 realms will live another life. If Long Fei fails, the myriad worlds will go to nothingness. Saying this at this time is just a comfort Bai Qi. In his heart, even if he is doomed to destruction, he will be at the forefront. Hearing this, Bai Qi didn't say any more. He knew that after handing over, he took over the immortal kingdom from Ying's hands. Go home. In an instant, Ying's voice fell. Without giving Bai Qi too much time to react, he directly cast the method and sent Bai Qi and the entire fairyland back together. In an instant, a passage leading to nothingness appeared and then slowly disappeared. Then, Ying slightly closed his eyes. The dispute begins now. Come out, let me show you what is the power that can suppress Long Fei. Chapter 5798. Chapter 5798. A figure slowly walked out of nothingness. But Ying Zheng's expression suddenly sank. The aura of this figure is extremely strange, as if it is not in the world. An alternative detachment. Ying whispered. Sensing the aura in front of him, Ying's face became unprecedentedly solemn, even deeper than when facing Deep Xen. As expected of the only existence outside the territory, you can see through me at a glance. The visitor said. Her voice was extremely cold, like walking out of an abyss, with an indifference that ignores the world. But if Long Fei was here, he would definitely feel shocked, because she is exactly the Yurong he has been looking for. Ying said nothing. The other party's intention was unknown, and he didn't want to take the initiative to probe. He fought for hegemony with the fate of the fairy kingdom, and then conquered fate, so he naturally understood a truth. When the two armies confront each other, whoever speaks first will be the weaker one. Get out of the way. My lord admires you very much, and he will undoubtedly make things difficult for you. And since you appear here, you should know that a catastrophe will soon come to this world, and even your home world will be implicated. And the Lord is the only one who can change everything. After a while, Yurong finally spoke first. So, Ying asked, that's why my lord hopes that you can cooperate with him, and only people who have reached your level are qualified to cooperate with an adult. Yurong responded. Ying narrowed his eyes. This is recruitment? Contempt appeared in his eyes. Even Long Fei had never spoken in such a gesture. As the great emperor of the immortal kingdom, he has his own pride and is unparalleled in the world. It was precisely because of this that Yurong's words at this time made him feel nameless anger. Let me cooperate with him? Then let him come. As for you, although you're also transcending the realm, but relying on external forces to transcend, the widows don't pay attention to it. Ying said, recruit him? That is impossible. How could the majestic great emperor of the immortal kingdom be inferior to others? Even Long Fei once disrespected him. So why should he? Yurong's face darkened, and displeasure appeared on his cold face. What's wrong with the external force? The power of an adult is the most essential power. Even if you surpass your fate, you can't catch up. As for asking an adult to come to see you in person, you don't have the qualifications yet. Eorong said. The voice fell for a moment. Her figure suddenly disappeared above the void. Then, an extremely terrifying and strange force enveloped the entire void. Clatter. The endless sea of blood began to roll at this moment, and the waves of blood surged into the sky, like gods and demons howling. Ying's expression changed, but in an instant, his expression recovered, and he became calm again. Until novel. Calm, La, the great emperor of the immortal kingdom, beyond fate, naturally has his means. He turned sideways and dropped a punch out of nothingness. Boom! A punch fell from nothingness, and the entire sea of blood suddenly shook, and all the huge waves disappeared instantly, and the soul-stirring wailing sound also disappeared. This is Fist of Fate. With one punch, it was like breaking the destiny, and everything returned to calm. And at the same time, the strange aura that enveloped this place also disappeared, and the void instantly became clear. But Ying's face was not relaxed. He knows, this is just the beginning, and such power is just a temptation. Yes, it is worthy of being an existence beyond fate, very strong. But if you think that you have the capital to compete with adults, you are wrong. Eorong's figure reappeared. The next moment, a long sword appeared in her hand. Omega Omega W. Net the breath above the long sword is even more strange, wrapped in death, surging with the emptiness of the extinction of all things. As if this is a sword forged in death, with the power to return everything to nothing. Cut. Eorong's voice was cold, and as his voice fell at this time, there was no light between the entire sky and the earth, and the sky turned into darkness in an instant. It is darkness without any light. The sea of blood turned black. Everything merges in darkness. Is this his power? The power to return everything to ruins? Ying's voice came from the darkness. But in the next moment, a bright light suddenly appeared. Then, that point of light magnified instantly at a speed that the naked eye could not capture. Then for a moment, the sky and the earth were illuminated. But this kind of returning to the ruins does not include the only one. Ying's voice is domineering, with an attitude of self-importance. Rumble. In the next moment, the entire world roared, as if the world had been reopened with unparalleled power. And the darkness under this force was also impacted and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Eorong's figure also reappeared between heaven and earth. Inglidi was empty, still in the original position, motionless, as if invincible. Eorong still maintained the posture of drawing the sword, but at this time the expression on her face became more dignified. As if facing Ying at this time, she finally had a feeling that she couldn't compete WVW. Until novel. Come, do you want to continue? Ying asked. Eorong was silent. I'm not afraid of you. I just don't want to destroy this world. This world is the basis for my lord to reverse the apocalypse. After a while, Eorong said, So, are you still fighting? Ying continued to ask back, showing the posture of the emperor of the fairy kingdom. Eorong narrowed his eyes, and an endless chill appeared in his eyes. However, in the end, she didn't make another move after all. After taking a deep look at Ying, she turned and left, disappearing into this world. Ying stared speechlessly. All things returned to ruins. He murmured, and there was a kind of powerlessness in his voice. And such a scene also happened in another place. That is Chowga, nine-tailed fox. DXIN looked at the beautiful figure standing in the air with surprise in his eyes. At this moment, he even suspected that history was repeating itself. No, it should be back on track. The nine-tailed fox came to destroy his wealthy businessman. But soon he denied this guess. The nine-tailed fox in front of him is not from this world. The current situation in this world has become the only battlefield. Under the only circumstances, even the former heavenly Tao saints are cannon fodder. I'm the Tushan family, not the nine-tailed fox you mentioned. But I don't mind justifying her name and destroying your wealthy businessman. Above the void, Nine Tails floated in the void with a cold tone. You can't do it. Also, please find out who I am before you make a move. If you want to fight, I don't mind rectifying the name of the Inshan. First, kill a nine-tailed fox to make an example of others. Dxin has been perfectly substituted, although he appeared in this world because of the sea. But he knew that the world had undergone tremendous changes today. He has no choice. No matter what force it is, he will resist it. And this is also the task of the sea. But fortunately, being backed by the sea gave him some confidence. Is it important who you are? The words are brought to you. 3 days later, Jiuxiao will return to the ruins palace. If you don't go, you will die. The figure in the void said, but soon her figure disappeared. Dxin looked at the disappearing shadow of the other party. His eyes were extremely serious. He never thought that it would become so complicated. Chapter 5799. Chapter 5799. At this time, in the Sea of Blood, Ying's expression changed again, because after Yurong left, another figure appeared in front of him. Moreover, this figure is not inferior to Yurong. But this is not the point. The point is that he is not unfamiliar with this woman, even very familiar with her. Because this person is Niwa. No, it should be said that she looks exactly the same as Niwa, but her breath is much stronger than Niwa. You are not my target. My target is a person under the Sea of Blood. She is my body, and I want to take it away. Niwa said. No, Ing Dandan replied. There were only 2 words of indifference, but he expressed his will extremely resolutely. No? Niwa's expression darkened. She didn't expect Ing to be so overbearing. Yes, it's just not possible. The widow is here, and no one can touch anyone here. I said this, no one can. Ing responded domineeringly, not afraid of everything, as if he had become the patron saint of a sea of blood. Omega Mega W. Net Niwa's face was gloomy. She stared at Ing firmly. Wow. K with Macron Nu SH 5. Net, what if I must? Nuwa's breath was even more terrifying. There was already anger in her heart. She didn't want to be enemies with Ing, but she knows that she is just a body of obsession. If she can't devour the body, she will never be truly unique. You cannot. That person couldn't do it before, and you can't do it either. Ing was even more determined, not willing to give in at all. Long Fei is not here, so he naturally wants to protect everything here. After all, this is also his belief. If he chooses to give up because the world is turned upside down at this time, it will make his Dao heart collapse. The complexion of Nvoi's obsessive body kept changing, but in the end she still didn't dare to make a move. It seems that you have chosen to be an enemy of the adults, so let's see. You can live for a few more days. Nvoi's obsessive snorted coldly, then turned and left. And with the departure of Nuwa's obsession, a sense of urgency finally appeared in Ying's eyes. In one day, 2 invincible beings came here. If they join hands, I may not be able to stop it. Fortunately, they have some scruples and dare not make a move in this world. Ing thought in his heart, but it's not a long-term solution. Once the existence behind them takes control of this world and can move me out of the world at will, then the real crisis will come. And my only chance is to unite. Thinking in his heart, Dxin came to Ying's mind. This is his first Waterloo since his detachment. But at the same time, it also convinced him that Dxin would not give in. No matter who Dxin was before, if he was an emperor, he would not be a subject, and he would die unyielding. Thinking of this, Ying's figure suddenly flashed and disappeared into the world. After Ing left, in the palace under the boundless sea of blood, Qingying felt sad, www. Until novel. Calm. She is heartbroken. When the world turned around, he could no longer feel Long Fei's aura. For a moment, the fear and worry in my heart broke out, and tears couldn't help falling down. Long Fei, is something really wrong with you? Her eyes are slightly red. On the side, Tianxin didn't say a word. Although she didn't know what happened, but seeing Qingying's state at this time, she also guessed something in her heart. I'm going to find my brother. After a long time, she seemed to have made a decision and spoke. Qingying set her eyes on her. What do you want to do? If he is dead, then what's the point of this world? My brother has suppressed the destructive power of countless epochs, enough to collapse this world. If this world is destroyed, it is naturally considered revenge for him. Tion said, if Long Fei was here, he would definitely be shocked. The heart of heaven is even good by nature. In Tianren village back then, even if the people in Tianren village treated their brothers and sisters like this, she didn't feel any resentment. But at this moment, she was full of killing intent. It can be seen how much the disappearance of Long Fei's breath has affected her. Qing Ying was silent, wanting to say something, but finally chose to remain silent. After a long time, she said, that's right, if Long Fei is gone, then what's the point of existence in this world, even if it is destroyed? Tion nodded without hesitation. The figure flickered and disappeared under this endless sea of blood. But at this time, outside the sky in the prehistoric world, 3 figures stood in the void. They're the sea, the dragon batten, and the apocalypse. At this time, the eyes of the sea kept flickering. Looking at the prehistoric world that has changed now, confusion appeared in his eyes for the first time. Looking at the sea in this state, Long Batian also realized the seriousness of the problem. Is Long Fei really dying? Long Batian asked. He knew how much Dahai had poured into Long Fei. If Long Fei really died under the darkness, it meant that everything Dahai had done would be in vain and become a dream. I don't know, it's just that I can't feel his aura in this world at this time. Even if he is not dead, he will be plunged into endless darkness at this moment. And that world will be a place without life. Dahai said. Obviously, he knew what kind of existence Long Fei was replacing now, and also knew what kind of world Long Fei had fallen into. So it is also clear that Long Fei is extremely dangerous now. Shouldn't it? Long Fei survived so much and survived so much. Can he be stumped this time? Long Batian still couldn't believe it, but there was a lot of sadness in his voice. I don't know. Everything still depends on him. Dahai said, with helplessness in his eyes. This is the biggest variable in history beyond his control, and this kind of power has not been calculated in his layout at all. Of course, it's not that he doesn't know the existence of this power. Rather, this kind of power is outside his control, and even he cannot intervene. In other words, facing the changes in this prehistoric world at this time, he simply couldn't intervene. Long Batian also fell silent. His eyes also gradually turned cold. Is it possible to kill it? As long as this existence is wiped out, Long Fei might have a few more chances. Long Batian said. For some reason, Long Fei's aura disappeared at this time, and he was trapped in the jail, which instead gave him a feeling of sadness in his heart. Moreover, he knew that the future of the universe and worlds rested on Long Fei. If something really happened to Long Fei, then everything would be irreversible and would eventually be destroyed. Impossible! The other party also knows Long Fei's origin. Now that he has made this choice, he obviously wants to keep Long Fei in the dark. He thinks that Long Fei is the root of everything. As long as Long Fei is destroyed, it is tantamount to destroying. Dahai explained. Then what kind of existence is this? Long Batian became more shocked the more he heard it. It was the first time he had seen Dahai so unconfident, even admiring others. This is a creature derived from the land where the stars fell. Among the heavens and worlds, there are only 3 kinds of existence that can make me feel helpless. One is the pillar of creation, and the other is the abyss of ending. Dahai said, is there another one? Long Batian asked. The other one is Long Fei. Chapter 5800. Chapter 5800. At this moment, the sea no longer hides. Long Batian, Kong Yuan, the child of Long Batian, opened his eyes wide. He finally realized why Dahai was so fond of Long Fei when he heard Dahai's words. Why did Long Fei not die even after he calculated so many things? It can make Hai feel helpless, which is enough to prove how terrifying Long Fei's roots are. But at this level, no matter how scary it is, it's useless. He fell silent and did not speak again. He also felt extremely difficult, and he couldn't even look at the problem with a normal state of mind. But at this moment, Tianqi on the side suddenly said, "My sister is here." As he spoke, Tian Xian's figure slowly walked in front of everyone. "Brother, destroy it, I'm tired." Tian Xian didn't say much, looked at Tianqi with sad eyes, and said calmly. Tianqi was taken aback for a moment, and immediately understood why Tian Xian made such an expression. Why is he not? Although it is said that they have been chasing the sea, but he knew how much Long Fei's kindness to them was. Of course, he also knew why Tianqin found him, because he was in that world outside the Eternal Land, and what he practiced was the way of destruction. Although it has been so long, he still has that kind of power. He looks out to sea. Dahai smiled helplessly. It's not that pessimistic, and Long Fei is not dead, so there's no need to go all out now. Dahai said. Tian Xian's eyes were flushed. But Master's aura has disappeared. The sadness that Tianqin showed at this time touched the sea. He knew that at this level, he was already used to seeing life and death, and he would not show such emotions unless he was a close relative. He also felt depressed. More than anyone else, he hoped that something would happen to Long Fei. Only he knows that what Long Fei is concerned with now is not about himself, but about the existence of the whole world. You have to have confidence in him. If he died so easily, then why should I work so hard to do this? Dahai said. He knows the tricks of apocalypse. After all, Tianqi's control of this power was also in his calculations. But there's one thing he hasn't said yet. That is, even if Tianqi uses that kind of power, it is impossible to destroy this piece of world. It is true that he has such power, but this world is no longer something he can pry. He wasn't the only one after all. Originally, if he had followed his plan, Tianqi would have taken that step in the conferred God world, but now that such a change occurred, it could only be stranded. Then what do you mean? Master is still alive? Tian Xian asked. The sadness on her face still couldn't be suppressed. Of course, how could he die so easily? Just wait and see. I believe Long Fei will be able to stand up in a short time. Dahai said. Even now that there is no longer any trace of Long Fei in the world, he still has confidence in Long Fei. At this time, in the endless darkness, darkness is the eternal melody, as if separating the heaven and the earth. It is a silent abyss, apart from being able to feel the spirit of heaven around him. There is nothing else, not even any breath. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is now blind. Can you believe it? He can sweep the world outside, but now he is struggling, and he has lost his senses even outside the radius. Heaven, what is this broken ground? Long Fei's voice was a little irritated. Here, he no longer has the concept of time. This feeling is extremely terrifying. Time means everything to him. Now that he is trapped in this world, unexpected changes must have taken place outside. In other words, the longer he was trapped, the more variables there would be in the outside world. At this time, the prehistoric world has already carried the core of his destruction of the apocalypse. If he can't break the situation as soon as possible, if the world changes by then, it will be more difficult for him to change and reverse. Master, I don't know. The spirit of heavenly Tao said. He could feel that Long Fei's aura was very manic at this time. But he was helpless. Even though he had been a heavenly Tao and felt this power many times, he didn't know anything about it. What's the use of you? Long Fei said. Long Fei was extremely annoyed. I can't help but feel a little regretful in my heart. If it wasn't for Hongjuan's old going through it back then, this situation would never have happened now. Kinshu, Zai with grave, and if he was in the prehistoric world, even if something irreversible happened, he would have the confidence to deal with it. But now, he is completely powerless. Master, I think that kind of power must be afraid of you. If it is not like this, there is no need at all. When changing, replace it quietly. If the other party really has the means to suppress everything, there is no need to do so. The spirit of heaven said suddenly. Long Fei was taken aback. These words reminded him. He forced himself to calm down. Yes, quietly. It's impossible to reverse without making a sound. Even if you turn your palm back, it will leave traces. Long Fei's eyes lit up. Whap! K with Macron nu SH5. Now let's not talk about what kind of existence this power is, nor whether it is afraid of itself. But since everything changes silently, it is impossible for this change to leave no trace. There are only two possibilities for the reason why perceive silence. Either the other party really has power far beyond his own, or I am now caught in a misunderstanding. Nothing has changed, or is still changing. Thinking of this, Long Fei asked, Heaven, tell me, is there a possibility that nothing has changed and we're just wrapped by some kind of power? Long Fei said, the more you think about it, the more possible it is. The spirit of heaven also said before that he could not perceive the existence of the other party. Perhaps there's a possibility that the prehistoric world is in the package of the other party, combined with the picture of the falling stars that I have seen before. He had this guess in his mind. Yes, the master's right. Now I also feel the same way. I feel that the previous power was suppressing and allowing the prehistoric world to exist freely. But now he has really spread his power and deprived the prehistoric world www. Until novel. Calm, the spirit of the Tao of Heaven responded with an extremely excited voice. When Long Fei said this, he also felt that there was only one possibility. Long Fei pondered for a while. Now that he has such a guess, it's easy to talk about the next step. I am most afraid of the unknown. In one thought, countless pictures appeared in Long Fei's mind. He was thinking, what is there that can suppress the power of a unique realm so thoroughly? Suddenly, a brilliance flashed in his mind. Suddenly, a light appeared. Coffin. At this moment, he thought of the only burial place. That is the end of the unique realm. Even if it is the only one in all ages, even if it is the only one in the world, even if it is beyond the heaven and the earth, as long as you enter it, you will lie under the graveyard after all, and there is no possibility of coming back. And now that's the case. Chapter 58:04. Chapter 58:04. Under the sea of darkness, waves of blood rolled. The endless river of Styx is still endless, surging with a terrifying sense of oppression. Above the Styx River, Ying's figure sat cross-legged in the void. When he is here, no one dares to offend. Whoosh! At this time, a figure came to him. It was Qin Ying. Qin Ying has always known about Ying's existence, but has never really communicated with him. Especially with the disappearance of Long Fei, the ancient world suddenly changed, and there was not much intersection between the two sides. But at this moment, Qin Ying couldn't help but worry too much. She couldn't trust Long Fei at all, so she could only step forward at this time. What do you want to ask? Ying Ziren sensed Qin Ying's arrival in an instant and asked, Is he still alive? Qin Ying's voice was choked with sobs, even though she was already the first person to reach transcendence, infinitely approaching the realm of transcendence. But when it comes to Long Fei, I can't help but feel sad. Ying was silent for a moment, looked up at the inexplicable light and darkness of the sky, and said, At least he is still alive. If he dies, this world may no longer exist. Ying's expression was extremely determined. He knows more than others. He even knew information that Dahai and Long Batian didn't know. And this is what he learned from the robbery he saw in the prehistoric world. Therefore, he naturally guessed that they did not want to destroy Long Fei during this great change. What they want is to ban Long Fei and suppress him forever. Therefore, Long Fei must still be alive at this time. Qin Ying's face relaxed slightly, and there was a bit of luster in his eyes. In her opinion, as long as Long Fei is still alive, that is enough. As long as you are alive, you will return one day. However, I don't know what kind of situation he is in now. This world cannot give him much time. Judging from the current process of heaven and earth, it will take at most half a month for heaven and earth to change. If the situation is reversed, if he hasn't come back by then, he will never have a chance. Ying said, as he stayed here, he could feel the world changing every moment, and this change was confirming his guess step by step. When Qin Ying heard this, his face suddenly became sad again. Can't you change too? She asked. There is only one supreme being, This is the common understanding of everyone in this universe. And Ying's cultivation has obviously already reached this point. The attitude of those people who came here before when facing Ying naturally illustrates this point. Ying is stronger than those people. Ying shook his head gently. No one can change it. When a robbery comes, even the only state will die. Only Long Fei can change it. Ying said, Jichi? What do you mean? Qing Ying asked again. An unprecedented horror. Ying looked heavy, but didn't say much. He knew Qing Ying's identity and didn't want to say too much to disturb her mind. The only thing he could do was to protect them on behalf of Long Fei. Qing Ying also felt the concealment in Ying's tone and wanted to ask something, but in the end she endured it. For them to say. Suddenly, Ying changed the subject and looked up into the void. 4 figures appeared quietly. In addition to the 3 people who came last time, there is another existence that he can recognize, Tiandao, Hongjun. However, at this time, Hongjun's aura actually reached the unique state. Ying's eyes narrowed. When Hongjun returned to Tiandao, Ying had already sensed the opponent's existence. Although his cultivation power was infinitely approaching the only realm, there was still a gap. But he didn't expect that now that he had withdrawn from the shackles of heaven, he would go one step further. Your Excellency, stop struggling fearlessly. Our Lord said that there are still 3 days before the catastrophe will begin, and no one can change it. If you are willing to join us, you will be saved from death by then. Hongjun said. Ying glanced slightly. Becoming someone else's lackey in exchange for the only situation, is this what you want? Ying looked disdainful. Although Hongjun is already in the unique realm, he still doesn't give face. Hongjun's expression changed. The word stooge deeply hurt him. Your Excellency, you are just the only one. Why do you speak so harshly? The only unchanging truth between heaven and earth is strength and weakness. Right and wrong are never the standard for measuring good or bad. Hongjun said. He once controlled the way of heaven and had seen the nature of too many rules. Whether it is human nature, demonic nature, or even divinity and demonic nature, what can influence these beings has always been based on their own strength and weakness, which remains unchanged from ancient times. Therefore, he doesn't think there is anything wrong with pursuing a higher power. What's more important is that he has seen the power and terror of that statue, and he understands it even more. That is, the world is about to be destroyed by darkness. Only by returning to darkness can we survive the catastrophe. We have different paths, and we don't want to work together. Go away. Ying responded coldly. I don't want to say any unnecessary nonsense. Hongjun's face darkened. Do you really think you are invincible? Even Long Fei is probably not qualified to be so arrogant in front of the 4 of us. Don't forget, you are only one person, but we are 4. Hongjun said. Next to him were 2 Shan Xiaoya from Jiawei, Yurong, and Yua's obsession. Moreover, the 4 of them are in the only realm at this time. So what? Although the only state is difficult to kill, it is not immortal. Especially those of you who rely on some kind of power to reach this state, no matter how many are there, you are still a false one in front of me. Ying responded with a smile. The Emperor's domineering power was undoubtedly evident at this moment. Don't care at all. No matter how much there's nothing to be afraid of. Hongjun's eyes darkened, and there was a hint of sternness. So there's no more talk? Hongjun asked. This time they're making a final push. The catastrophe is about to come, and they are ordered to clear all obstacles. I just didn't expect that this was the first step and it would get stuck. Roll! The word Yingxi is like gold. But as he said these words, a black dragon suddenly condensed in the void. The black dragon hovered in the void with a ferocious body. Between vertical and horizontal, huge waves rolled up directly. Hongjun and others showed some caution in their eyes. Shan Xiaoya's eyes were full of fighting spirit, and she looked at Hongjun. Since it is not his fault that he is like this, then kill him first. Didn't he also say that the only thing is that it is difficult to kill, but it is not immortal? Shan Xiaoya originally wanted a fighting. Although she has lost a lot now and has forgotten the past, The warlike blood still exists in her body, and her nature has not changed. No, just leave it to the master. But her proposal was rejected by Yurong. Tushan Xiaoya frowned and looked at Yurong with a bit of displeasure in his eyes. However, she didn't say anything more. Let's go, Yurong said again, then turned and left. Hongjun and 3 others followed closely behind. Obviously, they all focus on Yurong at this time. Several figures disappeared for a moment, but Ying's pupils suddenly sank. It's only 3 days. Chapter 5805. Chapter 5805 at this time, Chaoga. Ever since the sudden change of heaven and earth, the one who had the most difficult time was Xian. Although he controls the system, with the help of Dahai, he now has the only combat power. But he knew he wasn't the only one. What is going on? The most miserable time travel in history. Did I come here to be killed? Xian looked indignant. Before, he faced Ying and fought with all his strength in exchange for peace. I thought that this would be the beginning of my journey through time, and I would be invincible in the heavens. But he didn't expect that within a few days of his happy life, the world would change. And this change is even more terrifying than the threat posed by Ying. He could feel it all the time, a dark force reversing the world and all living things. It seems to turn this world into a desert. This feeling is extremely painful, but he still couldn't resist. Your Majesty, countless people have died inexplicably and turned into dark creatures, wreaking havoc on the world. At this time, when Zhong came behind him and spoke, Xian's brows darkened, and a black line condensed on his head. It started again. It only stopped for 2 days, and then it started again. Xian murmured, a surge of anger bursting out in his heart. Since the reversal of heaven and earth, almost every once in a while, human races will die out. But dying is not death. It seems to be changing into another kind of dark existence, and then destroying the world crazily. And as this power spreads, the world seems to have disappeared into nothingness for no reason. But now, when Zhong appeared in front of him and told this news, he felt even more powerless. Your Majesty, according to this trend, in less than 3 days, our great Shang people will fall and the power will break into Chaoga. When the time comes. When Zhong said softly, his face was also full of worry. If the time comes and they don't want me to live well, then I will let them die. The words were interrupted by Xian. Xian also had a look of anger on his face, and then turned around suddenly. The next moment his figure soared into the sky. Visible to the naked eye, the moment Xian stood in the void, 9 golden dragons suddenly circled out and guarded him in the core. Under the imperial robe, he looked at the vast world with a stern look. If you don't let me live, then we will die together. Light the beacon of humanity. Light it for me. Xian had infinite determination in his eyes, and as his voice fell, the 9 giant dragons hovering around him suddenly rose into the sky, entangled with each other, and turned into blazing flames under the naked eye. The next moment, his body suddenly grew in size, unparalleled in the world. At this moment, the entire prehistoric world could see his figure. I am the co-owner of the world and the lord of all life. No matter what kind of existence you are, if you want this world and want to mess with my people, I will not agree to it. Emperor Xian was extremely domineering, raging with rage against the sky, and his voice at this moment also spreads through the heaven and earth through power. And as his voice fell, the cluster of flames instantly rushed to the sky. Like a big sun hanging high in the sky, it wants to light up the world again. At this moment, countless creatures in the prehistoric world slowly raised their heads. His eyes were eager. Xian's words burned in their hearts like a ball of flame. The king hasn't given up yet. Your Majesty, this is a decisive battle with the sky. The king hasn't given up yet, so why should we give up? In the past few days, the world has been falling. Strange creatures are engulfed in darkness and are ravaging the world. Countless people are submerged in the darkness and become a part of the darkness. so that it is still alive, people live in fear day and night. But now, DXIN's words have rekindled their hope. They looked at the flames hanging high in the sky, scorching like the sun, and their eyes once again became radiant. The heaven and earth are in catastrophe, but I am the only one who can lead humanity to eternal prosperity. My people, today I use the fire of my race to ignite this ruined world and illuminate this blood-stained mountains and rivers. I don't want to be the king of a subjugated country, nor do I want you to be the walking corpses sinking into darkness. So fight. I will fight in person and use my fire of humanity to drive away the darkness of Kyushu. After all, DXIN came from time travel and is the owner of the system. He naturally knows what to do to better stimulate people's hearts. Moreover, he cannot sit still and wait for death now. Under this trend, in a few days, the entire human race in the world will be enveloped by the power of darkness. If he wants to live, he can only fight. War, war, war. Countless voices resounded across the land of the human race, and, as one united, the voices seemed to turn into firewood, invisibly surging into nothingness. And the human race fire that hangs high above the nine heavens is getting stronger and stronger. Kill! DXIN's voice spread to heaven and earth for the last time, and then his figure rose directly into the sky. It seems like he is really trying his best. Outside the prehistoric world, three figures wandered in the void. At this moment, they were looking at the primitive world below. Where did you find such a top-notch person? He has a good temper and is really good at it. Long Batian looked at DXIN's actions with undisguised admiration in his eyes. If you knew his origin, you wouldn't be surprised. Dahai said leisurely. What? Is there any other origin? Long Batian asked. Dahai smiled faintly. Do you think I would be so frivolous in doing things? Can you just find someone to challenge Long Fei in the ring? Long Batian pondered slightly and shook his head. Every step of what Dahai does is carefully considered. Whether he or Long Fei is the mastermind behind everything, everything behind them has Dahai's shadow. It can be said that without the sea, they would not be able to get to where they are today. Then what is his origin? Long Batian asked. Dahai looked at the figure. He is Long Fei's son. Long Batian. If Long Fei were here, he would be shocked and even furious, thinking that he actually asked Ding to attack DXIN in the first place. Wouldn't that mean that father and son would kill each other? You are so cruel. If something happens to him, aren't you afraid that Long Fei will fight you to the death? Long Batian was speechless. The Long family is all bald for you. Can't we just change the whole family to come to Huohua? No, I have confidence in Long Fei. Dahai said leisurely. Long Batian curled his lips. Do you really have confidence? But then, he turned his attention to DXIN. Although I don't know what means Dahai used to bring him to this world, he is Long Fei's son after all. If an accident really happens, Long Fei will probably be in trouble. Don't worry, it's just using some means to let his soul pass through this world. Even if he dies, his soul will only be damaged. But if it succeeds, his cultivation will increase dramatically after his return. Dahai continued. Long Batian nodded. But do you think it's possible to succeed? Lighting up the sky with the fire of humanity can only last for 3 days at most. He only relies on the power of humanity to have the only combat power. What's the use? Dahai shook his head. Of course he can't do it alone, so now it's time for you to take action. You don't want Long Fei to clean up the world for you after he returns. Dahai looked at Long Batian with a half-smile. Chapter 58:06. Chapter 58:06. There was suddenly silence in the void. Long Batian frowned deeply and looked at the sea in disbelief. You mean let me take action? Long Batian asked. Long Batian frowned, not because he was unwilling to take action, but because this was a battle with no chance of winning. Moreover, he knew that the enemy he had to face also had innumerable opportunities with Long Fei. If he takes action now, he will help Long Fei's son beat Long Fei's woman. If he didn't take action, He would just watch the Long Fei woman beat his son. Dilemma. Of course, if you take action, there is probably still hope. At least you can drag Long Fei out of the darkness. Dahai said. Long Batian was silent. You have to understand that Long Fei has now recovered his memory. His system is not reliable either. It is probably not there. He must have told Long Fei about it. Now Long Fei must also have doubts about his identity. No matter what choice he makes, he must still be resentful towards you. If you don't do something to make up for it now, you will be the first to be unlucky when he comes out of the darkness. Dahai Yundan Fingqing looked at Long Batian with interest. Long Batian's face became even more gloomy. He looked at the sea. Did you plan it? Did you deliberately make Long Fei's identity so mysterious to inspire my competitive spirit? Long Batian asked. He increasingly suspected that there was Dahai's shadow behind this, and it was not impossible for Dahai to do such a thing according to his temper. The mastermind behind this eternal time drives everything and calculates everything. It's a big ocean to do such a thing. Dahai frowned. What do you think? Long Batian's face instantly tightened. When Dahai said these words, the answer was no longer important. It was self-evident. When he thought of this, Long Batian flicked his long sleeve, and his figure turned into a stream of light and rushed into the ancient world. When Long Batian's figure disappeared, Dahai's eyes gradually became heavier. Long Fei, he pondered, then turned to look at Apocalypse behind him. Now it's time for you to play your role. Whether Long Fei can come out alive or not depends entirely on you. Dahai said. Tianchi suddenly raised his head. What should I do? When it comes to Long Fei, he won't have any hesitation. Even if he is dead, he will not frown. Do what you do best. You once caused catastrophe by killing people in the eternal world and launched destruction. Now, you will cause this catastrophe in the prehistoric world. Since it is destined to be a disaster, then give him a trigger to detonate the entire prehistoric world. Dahai said. Tianchi nodded. The next moment, he also followed Long Batian's figure, turned around, and jumped directly into the ancient world. The sea stands with its hands behind its back. The abyss of the end. It's time to see what kind of existence you are. Dahai groaned, and the next moment, the figure stepped out. And as he took this step, a dark nebula suddenly appeared in the vast galaxy. In the nebula, it seemed as if there was an eye that flickered on and off. The Lord of Creation. For a moment, a voice came out of the darkness. Dahai shook his head gently. I'm not. But I know what he knows, but he may not know what I know. Dahai said with a calm expression. If Long Fei were here, he would definitely shout, fuck. No matter when, the sea always looks so otherworldly, as if everything has nothing to do with him. This time, he got it again. After all, what he was facing now was the master of the abyss of ending who could suppress Long Fei in the darkness without a sound. But even so, the sea can still remain calm. The voices in the nebula fell silent. It seemed that he didn't expect that at their level, there would be people who dared to show off in front of him. But soon, another voice came from among them. I don't care what kind of existence you are, whether you are the Lord of Creation or not. But you have to know that we are not enemies. Our enemy should be the Lord of Tribulation. In the nebula, the sound was quite heavy. Dahai shook his head slightly. But he is my person. Are you going to be an enemy if you say we are an enemy? But he is the source of all destruction. I can feel that he is about to come out of the end. Once he comes out, it will be the beginning of all disasters. The voice in nebula was obviously angry, and it was obvious that he was affected by the sea. The indifferent attitude was irritating. It doesn't matter if you say it or not. Originally, I had a good plan, but it will take some time. If I follow my plan, I can hide it from the outside and let him destroy his body. But because of your appearance, my plan was disrupted. Dahai said, his tone gradually becoming less friendly. In his plan, Long Fei has now forgotten his previous memories. He wanted to hide the truth and deceive Long Fei's unawakened memory with a false disaster. But now everything has changed. Because of the reversal of the abyss of ending, Long Fei was trapped in darkness, causing his plan to basically go bankrupt. He could naturally feel that Long Fei had recovered his memory now. And along with recovering that memory, naturally comes the recovery of strength. The power he thought was swallowed by a black hole. But in fact, only the sea can clearly. That is the power of robbery. The more Long Fei gets by using that power, the more likely it is that the dusty memories will be revived. It is precisely for this reason that Dahai does not have any favorable impression of the existence in this nebula at this time. Ha ha ha, plan? Are you actually plotting against the Lord of Tribulation? But in the nebula, he suddenly laughed. It's like the words of the sea are like a fool's dream. The sea remained unmoved and listened quietly. This is impossible to succeed. No one has ever been able to plot against a robber. You don't understand the terror of that kind of power, which is illogical and irresistible. Voices continued to come from the nebula, and they became even more angry. It is irresistible. So I came to you to negotiate a deal. If it succeeds, I will spare your life. As Dahai spoke, his tones suddenly became cold, and murderous intent broke out in him in an instant. Boom! In an instant, the nebula turned gray and lost any luster. There was even a muffled groan, as if with the words of the sea, the being inside was also seriously injured. After a moment of silence, the voice from the nebula came out again. What deal? He compromised. When Dahai showed his murderous intent, he seemed to sense the terror of Dahai, and naturally he no longer dared to be arrogant. It's very simple. Do what you're doing now and let the prehistoric world really become chaotic. And someone must die. Dahai said. A cold light suddenly burst out his eyes. Who? Who do you want to die? Those women will all die. Dahai said. At this time, in endless darkness, Long Fei no longer remained silent. He knew that if he wanted to get out of this endless dark space, he could only use that kind of power. Chapter 58:07. Chapter 58:07 before, but when the spirit of heaven urged me. An uncontrollable ferocity appeared in Long Fei's heart. Under the influence of that aura, Long Fei almost wanted to destroy everything in a single thought. At that moment, Long Fei felt terrified in his heart. He even doubted why he had such thoughts, as if there was another soul in his body controlling him. At this moment, he thought of what the system had said before, and felt fear in his heart for a moment. Holy shit, what this dog system says is true, right? Is my origin really not simple? Is it really related to the apocalypse, tribulation? For a moment, Long Fei's heart was in chaos. But soon he calmed down. No matter what, it was impossible for him to stay in this endless darkness. Some things could only be answered by walking out on his own. Therefore, at this time he had already begun to devour. Almost silently, as long as he had a thought, his body would automatically start to operate, and endless devouring power would explode within his body. It was as if his body was a huge black hole, swallowing everything. Even this endless darkness is of no avail in the face of that devouring power. Master, what kind of power is this? It's so scary. The spirit of heaven attached to Long Fei's body. At this time, he witnessed Long Fei's terrifying power with his own eyes. The darkness seemed to be transformed into substantial power and was swallowed up in front of Long Fei at a speed visible to the naked eye. And Long Fei was like a ferocious beast that had been hungry for a long time, devouring crazily without stopping. And the area he walked through turned into nothingness in an instant. Yes, it is nothingness. It was a direct destruction. It was as if it had never appeared between heaven and earth. This kind of power makes the spirit of heaven seem more and more. I was so frightened that I couldn't help but ask in the end. But Long Fei didn't respond. There was a trace of ruthlessness in his eyes. He just moved forward step by step without any emotional fluctuations, as if everything in front of him was false in front of him. How could this happen? The spirit of heaven felt panic at this moment. No matter how cruel Long Fei's words were before, he would not feel frightened. But at this moment, he was really scared. Driven by this power, he felt as if everything was being destroyed. It was like a catastrophe. Idiot! Weren't you the one who bewitched me? If you hadn't urged me, Long Fei might not have taken this step. At this time, a voice suddenly appeared in his ears. The spirit of heaven was stunned for a moment, and then looked around blankly. Who are you? Although he is also a spirit, he is not aware of the existence of the system at all. After all, the system is now in Long Fei's body. And Long Fei's body is transformed into the most terrifying alternative, which he cannot possibly perceive. I am your ancestor. You are a guy who has failed in many achievements and failed in many things. If it weren't for you, Long Fei might not have known Tiandao Mountain before. He would not have entered this land of the end. Naturally, he would not have recovered. Sealed memories. It can be said that you single-handedly destroyed the plan of a great existence. Wait for death. The system said. The spirit of heaven was instantly swept away by terror. He didn't know what the system was, but thinking about the changes in Long Fei before and after, he felt even more panicked. He knew that the voice was not lying to him. It was after Long Fei entered this darkness that he had just started to become different from before. I don't know either, but this is my instinct. There seems to be a voice telling me that I should do this. The spirit of heaven responded with a trembling voice. The system's words caused him to panic. At this moment, he felt as if he had caused a huge disaster, as if his actions would cause a catastrophe. Snort. The system snorted coldly, showing extreme dissatisfaction. For the system, he was absolutely unwilling to see Long Fei take this step. But everything seemed to be a given. No matter how he avoided it, he still couldn't stop Long Fei from taking this path. He also knew that the spirit of heaven was only a catalyst. Even without the spirit of heaven, Long Fei would still be where he is now, because this task was given by him. And he felt very innocent, because when the sea sealed Long Fei's memory, he also sealed his memory. So he was completely ignorant of Long Fei's other identity at that time, including publishing tasks. They're also automatically generated. In other words, there seems to be a force behind Long Fei's ability to reach this point, which is inevitable. But at this time, Long Fei's eyes gradually dimmed. No, to be precise, his eyes couldn't be called eyes. There is only a feeling of callous indifference and emptiness. That kind of look seemed to be transcendent, and everything was as trivial in his eyes. And he knew nothing about the dialogue between the system and the spirit of heaven. At this time, he had only one belief in his heart. That is to swallow this darkness and swallow everything. And as soon as the power of his devouring began, it was unstoppable, as if it stimulated the body's instinct and made him addicted to it. He devoured it very quickly, and almost as quickly as he took a breath, the world in front of him turned into nothingness. Even the aura on his body became deeper and more terrifying. It's over. It really can't be stopped. When he swallows all this power, his cultivation may be able to go further. The system's voice was full of helplessness. In this situation, he was powerless to stop it. What should I do? I feel that the master's current state is not right. He is so scary. The spirit of heaven also said. He didn't know what kind of power Long Fei's current change was. But he could feel that Long Fei seemed to be out of the category of living beings, and his ruthless gaze was even colder than when he was the rule of heaven, operating the power of heaven, creating disasters and destroying living beings. To even say that comparing the two is nothing compared to the big one, there is no comparability at all. Driven by this emotion, his heart was also filled with panic. There is no way to stop it. In this situation, we can only let it go. The system said helplessly. At this time, he knew that there was no power that could stop Long Fei. No force is possible, including the sea. For a moment, the system went silent. This situation is definitely not what he wants to see. The spirit of heaven is also silent. He didn't even know what kind of existence he was talking to, but he knew that the level of this kind of existence was definitely above his own. At this time, even he said that there was no way, which meant that he was even less qualified to participate. For a moment, he looked at Long Fei. I was trembling in my heart. Chapter 58:08. Chapter 58:08 Long Fei was still devouring it, and as he walked through this endless darkness, everything turned into nothingness. This is the abyss of the end, the place of silence after the life force of all living universes dissipates. Just as Long Fei analyzed before, this place is scarier than the only burial place. But the result is that there is no resistance in front of Long Fei. Once Long Fei passes by, everything in the surrounding area will be turned into powder. Finally, after a certain period of time, Long Fei's steps finally stopped. His eyes were still full of indifference. He looked around, with a hint of confusion and even anger in his cold eyes. The next moment, he raised his hand and punched out. Boom! The invisible shackles of darkness seemed to be shattered by a punch. The next moment, an endless galaxy appeared directly. There was no other change in Long Fei's eyes. He just paused for a moment and then walked directly forward, and his body still exudes that terrifying, devouring power. This is the prehistoric world? How did the prehistoric world become like this? And Master, we can't continue. If we continue, the prehistoric world will cease to exist. The spirit of heaven suddenly spoke. There was panic in his voice. He had to stop it. If Long Fei continues, the prehistoric world will follow the footsteps of the previous dark world and will be reduced to ashes. And all living creatures in the prehistoric world will also turn into nothingness. As a spirit of heaven, he absolutely did not want to see this scene. Stop it. You can't stop it. The system spoke with helplessness in its voice. He could feel that the strangeness emanating from Long Fei was getting stronger and stronger, and his original humanity had gradually disappeared. It seems as if it is truly incarnated into a transcendent force outside the heaven, earth, and universe, destroying and causing disaster. He devouring is the condition for getting out of the darkness. But from the system's perspective, this is the beginning of destruction. Even if this world is already an abyss after the end, it will still turn into nothingness in the face of Long Fei's power, completely dissipating in the sky and earth, erasing all traces of existence. But he couldn't stop it. No force could stop it. He could only watch quietly. As time passed, the endless darkness dissipated, and Long Fei's footsteps stopped at this moment. His eyes were still cold, and in front of us, it seems that we have reached the end of the dark abyss. Long Fei looked in front of him, and then took another step. He opened his palms, and a black hole appeared in his palms. No, Long Fei, now that you have stepped out of this darkness, do you want to continue with this power? This power will also bring destruction to the universe. Do you really want the entire universe to be destroyed because of you? But at this moment, the sound of the system suddenly appeared. He had been powerless to stop it before. But now, after this step, it will move from darkness to light. In other words, when Long Fei pushes away the dark barrier in front of him with his palm, he will enter the real universe. But if he doesn't put away his power now, when the time comes, the entire universe will surely be destroyed because of this power. He didn't know if Long Fei could hear him at this time, but he could only take one gamble. However, Long Fei only hesitated slightly before continuing. Wait a minute, Long Fei. Think about your woman. Think about Xiao Xiao. Think about your 2 sons. Think about your brothers. Think about the 8 great Vajras. Think about Long Ting. You really just want to watch are they in dire straits because of you? I said, you will regret it. But if you take this step, there's really no turning back. The system is extremely emotional. The attitude he showed at this time was definitely not what the system should show. But Long Fei's movement stopped. In his cold eyes, there was finally a hint of human struggle. But just for a moment, he became indifferent again. At the same time, a cold voice came from his mouth. Only destruction can lead to rebirth. As he spoke, his eyes were replaced by indifference again. No, wait. Long Fei, do you remember Lianchen? He gave birth to a son for you, and he is now in the prehistoric world. If you still carry this destructive power out of the darkness, he will definitely bear the brunt of it, because this world is a medium where 3 forces intertwine. the system suddenly said. At this moment, Long Fei's eyes finally regained their luster. In fact, the light of humanity gradually filled up, suppressing the indifference that towered over all living beings. At this moment, Long Fei also woke up. Long Fei was stunned at first, and then his eyes were full of surprise. At the end of the abyss of the end, doesn't this mean that you can walk out of this darkness with a gentle push? Long Fei seemed to be a different person, completely different from before. But soon he frowned slightly, because his mind was still immersed in the previous conversation with the Spirit of Heaven. He only remembered that it was the Spirit of Heaven that urged him to take action. But after that, his memory seemed to have been wiped out of thin air, and he had no idea why he ended up here. His only feeling was that at that moment, he thought of many people, Xiao, Lu Luoxi, Oya, and his brothers. He could even feel that he had felt extremely dissatisfied and resisting. But at this moment, he couldn't feel it. What exactly are you fighting against? How'd I get here? Long Fei asked. The system is silent. Long Fei's reaction also surprised him. He always thought that even Long Fei, who used the power of devouring, was still Long Fei himself, so he kept emphasizing his inability to change. But now Long Fei's attitude seemed to have no feeling for himself in that state. You don't feel anything at all? The system asked. Long Fei frowned. What do you mean? There was a deep surprise in the system's voice, full of shock. Master, you seem to have been replaced by another will before. That existence was extremely terrifying, swallowing it all the way. Even the darkness was vulnerable to him. The Spirit of Heaven took the initiative to speak. The change in Long Fei's posture made him very shocked. But at the same time of shock, there was also deep fear, because he simply couldn't describe what kind of existence it was, powerful, indifferent, and even said to be superior to all creatures in the world. His existence seems to be for the purpose of destruction. Any existence is meaningless in his eyes. Long Fei was silent for a moment. A solemn look flashed in his eyes. If these words were spoken by the system, he might hesitate. But now, this is what the Spirit of Heaven said, and he chooses to believe it absolutely, because the Spirit of Heaven does not have the courage to deceive himself. In other words, there's already another existence in my body, silently. But when that existence appears, his own nature will be suppressed, and he will have no feeling. Not to mention the system being shocked. Even Long Fei himself felt scared. He is now thinking, is what the system said true? Is he really the third kind of existence between creation and end, related to the apocalypse? Chapter 5809. Chapter 5809. After a moment of silence, Long Fei's eyes gradually became firm. How do you choose? Long Fei asked. System. The system knew that Long Fei was naturally asking him this question. How does he choose? Does he have a choice? What do you want to do? The system asked. The system knows Long Fei too well. Long Fei has come from nothing to now step by step. No matter how much he goes through, his nature will not change. If it was Long Fei in the previous state, he wouldn't dare to say. But now, he saw unwillingness in Long Fei's eyes. From this alone, he was sure that Long Fei must have made his own decision. You still have to ask? Of course, kill him. No matter what kind of existence it is impossible to dare to make a fuss in my body. I don't want to, even if it is really the third kind of existence you mentioned, it won't work. Long Fei said lightly, but his eyes were full of determination. Don't be timid, just do it. Are you sure you can do it? The system asked in a low voice. Long Fei, Mud Horse. Before it even started, he was already sentenced to death. Whether it's possible or not, I won't allow it. The worst is possible. Long Fei gritted his teeth and said, he will never allow another will to exist in his own thinking, and can even replace himself silently. This is horrible. A person is an independent individual, and his thinking is unique. Now that he is the only existence, a second existence appears in his body. This is absolutely intolerable. Okay, but I probably won't be of any help to you anymore, the system said. As early as when Long Fei broke through the unique realm, the existence of the system was already dispensable. Although there were some tasks later, the constraints and help to Long Fei were negligible. Especially now, although Long Fei has regained his will, his power improvement is real. Today's Long Fei has gone too far beyond the unique realm. Even now, he could vaguely feel the breath of the sea on Long Fei. He didn't know what realm the sea was, but the only thing he was certain of was that it was definitely not the only one that could be compared to the ordinary. And now, Long Fei also has that smell on his body. Although there is still a slight gap, it is not too much. It doesn't matter, but the most urgent thing is to get out of here first. Long Fei waved his hand and said, then gently pushed, directly breaking the last layer of darkness. Boom! An extremely pure vitality appeared in front of Long Fei. This feeling made Long Fei intoxicated. This feeling of seeing the light of day again made Long Fei feel extremely comfortable in his heart. Compared with the feeling of sinking in darkness before, compared with now, they are completely two extremes. But at the same time, this also made Long Fei realize that this was not a prehistoric world. This is the original world. The system also spoke at this time, feeling extremely excited. Long Fei's eyebrows also moved. Without the system saying anything, he could naturally feel the difference here. It's a completely different world than the one I've experienced before. The breath here is infinitely close to its origin, powerful and pure, and makes people feel comfortable every time they breathe. It is no exaggeration to say that in such a world, even a pig can improve his cultivation to the half-step state. There is no doubt that this is an extremely scary world. But of course, Long Fei had no fear. If it were before, he might be afraid of the original world, but now, completely unnecessary. There is simply not enough to kill. He could even feel that if he wanted to, he could easily destroy this whole world. But of course, there is a major premise. That is to use that devouring power. However, after experiencing what happened before, Long Fei didn't want to touch that kind of power easily again. He was afraid that he would be dominated by another will again without realizing it. And he still doesn't know anything about it, which is the scariest thing. Long Fei, I can feel that the world not far ahead has a very familiar atmosphere. Perhaps it is the birthplace of the system. The system said. Long Fei was stunned. The system comes from the original world. He has known this for a long time. Although the system has gone through countless transformations and upgrades and has long since shed all traces of its original world, it cannot be changed. Being able to own the system is related to the original world. Then go and have a look. You may find unexpected gains. Long Fei said, since he now wants to have an answer, any side detail may become his breakthrough point. But now that he has just come out of the darkness and is here, Long Fei also believes that there is a kind of guidance in the dark. Without hesitation, Long Fei's figure flashed and walked forward. At this time, the original world is a world floating in the starry sky. A young man is standing behind a figure. Teacher, do you really feel Long Fei coming? The young man was extremely excited. Of course, I am sure that although the system is out of the control of the data, it is the greatest work of art between you and me after all. Moreover, I've already left the script when I created the system. No matter how the power of the system changes, even if although it is out of my control, I can still feel the fundamentals of the system. Moreover, I can feel now that the system is getting closer. The middle-aged man in front of the young man responded. This young man naturally accepted the challenge. Ingzhan is the actual controller in the evolution of the Long Fei system. It can be said that Long Fei's many system transformations and upgrades were completed in his hands. Moreover, there were two conversations between him and Long Fei. It was precisely because of this that he was so excited at this time. He had already fantasized about meeting Long Fei countless times, and now that it was really going to come true, he naturally couldn't suppress his emotions. Then shall we greet the teacher now? This R&D center is not peaceful now. Many people are thinking of stepping on the teacher. If Long Fei comes here, will it affect the teacher? Ingzhan said. The entire R&D center had issued an order to terminate long phase system. It was also from that time that long phase system entered a state of free development. If the people in the R&D center knew that not only was long phase still alive, but his system had also reached an inestimable level, they would even come to this R&D place so openly. They will definitely take measures. Naturally, they didn't want Long Fei to have problems and fall in a crisis when he came here. But little did they know that their thoughts at this time were completely filled with the wrong person. It can only be said that they know nothing about Long Fei now. While the two were talking, Long Fei's figure had already crossed hundreds of millions of miles of stars. This distance may be extremely far for those under the Only Realm. But for Long Fei, there is no difference between being close at hand. He is so strong that even the boundless space of the galaxy is only a moment in his eyes. Soon, a world suspended in the galaxy appeared before his eyes. This is not a planet, but more like a world created by man. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.